All right, Austin, I've seen this fun game that podcasts have been playing, sports podcasts, where they try and name the same athlete. They go three, two, one, and then you try and kind of hone in. They give you five strikes, and you just have to get to the same guy any way possible. You ready to
Okay.
play?
Any way possible.
Any way possible. Maybe he's one of the athletes we'll name. We'll see.
Maybe.
Okay, so I've got a name in mind. Do you have a name in mind?
I do.
Okay, three, two, one.
Troy
Tony
Polamalu.
Romo, Troy Polamalu, and Tony Romo. Those are our two
Okay. All
players.
right. Okay.
One offense, one defense, okay.
One
One,
AFC,
they're
one
both kind of the
NFC.
same
Same era though. Pretty
realm. Yeah,
close.
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Same era. Okay. I have a player. Do you have a player?
Yeah.
Okay. Three, two, one.
Ben
Ben
Roethlisberger.
Roethlisberger. Whoa! Sweet,
Whoa.
holy
Whoa.
shit! Oh my god! All right. Well, that totally nailed it.
Welcome into It's Always Sunny in Cheese Kingdom. I'm Austin. Find me on X at Real Bird Lawyer, Bird Law Expert on Blue Sky. Here with me, as always, my co-host Taylor at Taylor_Wit on X, IASIC on Blue Sky. What's going on, bud?
I'm tickled. I'm tickled to death. We definitely did not. I mean, I know we only got that game on the second try, and it sounds like that was
Sure.
planned or rigged
Fate.
or whatever,
Yeah,
because
right.
everybody who sees any Kansas City fans or anybody doing anything good, they think it's rigged,
Yeah,
obviously. But
obviously. Obviously.
I introduced the game to you 10 seconds before we started that.
Yep.
Just let you know exactly how we were going to play. And then we nailed it. That was, Romo, Polamalu. It was good. We both picked the same era, of course, because that's kind of
Sure.
our,
It's right in our wheelhouse,
it's right in our wheelhouse. And, Steelers, great quarterback. I mean, it was perfect. So I'm really high. I'm fired up about that. I'm fired up about the Chiefs. I'm fired up to talk some ball with you. It's a great day to be alive.
It is a great day to be alive, and that actually leads me to my first item on the agenda, uh, which is our fantasy leagues. And I guess I'll just go ahead and start with the Cutthroat League because that makes the best transition. I'm no longer alive for the
Yeah.
first time in 2 years and 6 weeks. My team was cut. This is the first time that I felt the pain of being cut from the league. I joined German Chief and Roscoe since the last time we did one of these updates in getting flushed from the league. All my players are gone. All my players are dead. A little post-mortem before we shout out the other leagues and the teams that are doing well. I had the most money in the league in Fab, and after the waivers hit in week 6, when I got eliminated, like after the waivers went through, I kind of was like, I'm feeling a
Hey,
little
looking
iffy.
good.
I'm feeling a little iffy about this. And I was
Mm-hmm.
projected sixth from the bottom, which was kind
Mm-hmm.
of, there were 13, 12 teams left. So I was right in the middle of the pack, but I just had kind of an ill feeling about it. And so, Wednesday, I'm sending out like all these offers for players. I'm trying to trade $200 in Fab for like
Yeah.
Puka or whoever. It's just
Trying to
somebody,
buy
anybody
some
that
help.
trying to buy some help, trying to convert some of that cash into players that could help me out. Didn't work out, and the entire team just completely let me down. Now, I did go with the stars and scrubs approach, and
Yeah.
my star, Lamar Jackson, was hurt. I had to roll with some scrubs. I think I started Bryce Young at quarterback, which was fine. I think he got me 18 points, but
Yeah, he's
with
been fine.
J.K. Dobbins let me down, and that just horrible, ghastly. Like as soon as I woke up at 7:30 and watched a 13-11 game where the Broncos beat the Jets.
Yes.
And I had a
It's an
player
ill
going in that
omen.
game. Like once J.K. Dobbins got like 5 points in that game, and I was
Uh-huh.
like, oh
That's
no,
it.
like this is like
You were texting
this
me
is
that
not.
morning and you were like,
I
I'm
knew. I
out,
mean,
dude.
I
I'm
knew as
done.
soon as that
Cooked.
game
Mm-hmm.
was like at halftime, I was like,
Mm-hmm.
this is going to be it for me. Congratulations to everybody that's still in it, including
Thank
you.
you. For
It
now.
is
My team sucks.
for now, and like I,
I have no
I
money and no good players. It's a bad
exactly, and
combo.
the thing is, like you have to win in cutthroat. You have to be willing to
Spend money
cut
to make money.
corners, and you have to be willing to go right up to the edge and stare into the abyss.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're gonna like having no money and no good players. That's not a strategy.
No.
Having good players or having money, that's a strategy. Unfortunately, sometimes you err a little bit and you just tip right over the ledge and you fall into the abyss. So
It's really hard to go a whole season and not be last once, as we have established. And you have miraculously you went 2 years and six games without
yeah,
being last.
right.
And I mean it's an insane league. I'm really glad we do it. It's really stressful, but at the same time, like you don't feel alive unless you've been in a cutthroat league, fantasy wise. Like it's just the thrill. It's I'm driven by the thrill of the sale. So
Absolutely.
yeah, it's a good time.
In other news, our redraft leagues, WB Jewell is killing it in the redraft league and
Yep.
on pace for elevation. He has the highest scoring team in the league. He has the best record in the league. He is on a 4-game win streak. He or she, I guess we don't know who,
William
but
Jewell,
yeah,
so probably.
sure. Well, but that's the name of a college, not a man. I mean,
You're
it's
right,
the name
William
of a,
Jewell. I didn't even think about that.
you know,
Maybe a
uh,
girl named herself William Jewell on Sleeper after her alma
it could
mater.
be. Sure, it
Yeah,
could be.
could
It could
be.
be. I don't want to misgender you, WB Jewel, but congratulations to you, whoever you are. And in our Dynasty League, we had to roll these into one, recap here because while I
Mhm.
did get cut from Cutthroat, which was really bumming me out because my season's over and I can't come back in. I'm locked out forever until next year. My Dynasty team is 7-0. And I gotta say,
Rolling.
I
Most
I
points
don't
scored in the
want to
league.
say it out loud,
Yeah.
but I am starting to think about the white whale a little bit.
Yeah.
And we're also in
Yeah.
a league with friend of the show Dan Harms, which is not for money, so it's maybe slightly less competitive. But my dynasty team in that league is also 7-0, and
Yeah.
so
And
I
and for clarification, a white whale for you is a first round playoff win.
yeah, that's true. Actually, it is. It is true. Let's just cross that off the list. I'm really
Yeah.
chasing one white whale and then another
Bigger.
illusory animal beyond that, a
Uh-huh.
white squid or a white kraken or
hmm hmm
whatever you want to call it. But yeah, fantasy is terrible, and
It is.
fortunately for us, I mean, I got to tell you, like I knew going into Sunday Night Football against the Lions that my cutthroat team was definitely getting eliminated, and I was
Yep.
very bummed out about that. And then the
There's only
Chiefs
one
beat the
thing that
hell
could
out of the
save you.
Lions. They did it. They saved me. They saved me. They saved my life. They saved my whole outlook on
Saved
everything.
football.
They saved football for us, and boy, they kept it rolling this week. So we got a great show. We've got news, news, news. We got what is happening. We're going to catch up on what's going on around the league. We have a recap of the Chiefs' 31-0 victory over the Raiders on Sunday, and we have a quick little preview of the Washington Commanders who are coming to town for Monday Night Football in Week 8. So let's get to the We are recording this on a Wednesday, and the Chiefs play on a Monday. So we do not have an injury report as of the time of recording, but I feel like we have a pretty good idea of what came out of the game on Sunday. And so here's the injury news as we understand it on Wednesday. Omar Norman Lott, the Chiefs' second round pick, rookie defensive tackle, is unfortunately out for the season with a torn ACL. He came out of that game against the Raiders on Sunday. That's a bummer, obviously, for him personally. It's a bummer for the Chiefs because he was playing well, and it's also a bummer for the Chiefs because defensive line is probably their thinnest position group, and one that they were already probably trying to add talent to. You have Felix Anudike-Uzomah goes out for the year before the season, who
Mhm.
was going to be not a defensive tackle, but was going to be the defensive line mix. And now Omar Norman Lott, a second round pick from this season, who was expected to contribute and was contributing, goes out for the year. So that's a bummer.
Yeah, I mean, they combine that with the odd treatment of Mike Pennell and
Right.
the trade in of Derek Nottie, who has been statistically one of the worst, if not the worst, defensive linemen in football. It's been an adventure and a bad one on the defensive line so far. You've got George still creating pressures, Chris still kind of doing his thing, not at the highest clip he's ever been at, but he's still disruptive. He's still a force in the middle. And outside of those guys, it's just a lot of let's hope the secondary does their job because that defensive line's struggling. Norman Lott was playing well, and I mean, anytime you see a rookie go down for the year in week 7, that sucks. That sucks for him, and it sucks for his development. Hopefully, he can recover from the ACL in time enough to participate in camp. I mean, that's usually like a
Right.
year-long recovery process, and
Yeah.
we're in October, so we'll see how severe it is and how quickly he bounces back. But they're going to need to go they're going to need to pull somebody. I don't know if it's an old friend or a new friend or how they're going to handle it, but they've got to bring in some help on the defense.
We'll talk about some of those friends here later on in the news rundown. But sticking with the injury news, Trey Smith left Sunday's game with a back injury that tightened up for him. This obviously was not a game where anybody with any kind of injury was going to return to the game.
No.
But Bob Fesco, of course, local radio host, reports that from sources, more than one, that he should be good to go this week, which obviously would be huge. Mike Caliendo stepped in for him and did a pretty good job, but it would be good to have the Chiefs at close to full strength on their offensive line. We'll talk about the left tackle situation here in a minute, but looks like Trey Smith is going to be okay to play this week.
Yeah, I know it's easy for a lot of people to see what's going on the offensive line between, well, we'll obviously talk about more about the that situation, but anytime you saw Trey Smith missing time, and that was concerning. But it was also a blowout. There's reasons that he didn't come back in the game. I'm sure if it were a much more tightly contested game, we probably would have seen Trey Smith this week. I think maybe that's maybe being optimistic, but yeah, let's keep the big uglies healthy and upright and playing. So hopefully he comes back soon.
Kareem Hunt left the game after the first drive. They were down in the red zone, and he went down with what looked like a really painful. I mean, like I was
Yeah,
concerned when he
too.
went down that he was going to be out for the year. He comes back in on the second drive briefly, and then comes back out, sits the rest of the game. I mean, the Chiefs were up 14-0 after the first two drives, and I think it was apparent to everyone in the building that this was not going to be a competitive game. So his status is sort of TBD. He obviously was able to come back in, which is that's obviously incredibly
Yeah.
positive news because if it was an Achilles, if it was an ACL tear, if it was a high ankle sprain, he's probably
Mhm.
not coming back into the game at all. But that doesn't mean that he's necessarily going to be available this week. If he has a high ankle or something like that, especially with his play style, he's the tush push. He's the Chiefs tush push. More efficient, by the way, this year than tush push,
Yeah.
converting in short yardage.
Yeah.
So we wish him well. He is an important player and he is fulfilling an important role, but it sounds like he avoided the worst possible scenario.
Yeah, I think similar to Trey Smith, if that game had been more competitive, I think he would have left the first series, come back in the second series, and then that would have been that, and he would have played the rest of the games. I hope so. Yes, technically TBD on the status, but I'll be pretty surprised if we don't see him out there on Monday.
Me too. Player that's probably not going to be available on Monday
No.
is Chiefs rookie left tackle Josh Simmons. Still no news. He's not with the team, and that's really the only thing that we know. He has not been placed on the NFI, the non-football injury list. The Chiefs have not done anything roster-wise, and they really can't do anything roster-wise because he's still on the roster.
And healthy, presumably.
And presumably healthy. And that's what makes this all so mysterious. We obviously, I mean, I said when he missed the Lions game, and the Monday after that, Chiefs basking in that victory, that we wouldn't need him against the Raiders, and we sure didn't. But we've reached a point now where the concern level for him as a person, and certainly for the team, in his absence, is quite high. It just is surprising to me that we don't know more information. And obviously, listeners of the show know that, in my past life, I've been a trial attorney. And one of the things that, they teach you as a trial attorney is that if you don't tell a jury something, they're going to assume that it's literally the worst possible thing
Mhm.
that has ever existed. And
Mhm.
so that's just kind of human nature. If you don't know what's going on. And maybe there's some brain chemistry. There might be people that you live in blissful ignorance and think that something great is going on whenever they don't know what a situation is. But that's not how most people are wired. It's natural, I think, for us as fans to assume the worst and be very concerned about this situation. Obviously, thank God for Jalen Moore, and he's done an incredible job stepping in. He got a shout out from Packers left tackle legend David Bakhtiari
Yeah.
this week on social media for his compelling play. And he's been awesome through two games, but it just is it's a weird situation. And it seems like, just inferring from the lack of any information at all from anyone, it seems like there's not that many people that even know what's going on.
Yeah.
And the number of people that are in the know on this situation, and has to be an incredibly tight circle. I'm not even sure like any of his teammates know. Pat sort of implied that he had talked to him and that he was praying for him, but like I would kind of be surprised at this point if Patrick knew exactly everything that was going on, and he's the guy that would know if any of the players knew. So
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
just it's weird. It sucks.
This part of the segment is actually called "No News, No News, No News" because there's
Yeah,
just we don't know anything, and for for sports fans, not knowing is much worse than knowing, no matter what the knowing is.
sure.
Like you're saying about the assuming the worst. If you don't know, it is the worst until you know. You have already assumed that Josh Simmons is never going to play another snap for the Kansas City Chiefs in it
Right,
ever.
right,
And there's just it's weird, it's off-putting. The mystery of it all is just kind of something that we're not used to in 2025. We're not used to not knowing.
right.
We are, so just plugged in all the time. Everybody is, and people break news constantly about what these players are eating for breakfast. I mean, it's crazy how much we take for granted, how much we understand the status of all these players. And again, I said this last week, I do think it's a bit exhausting to have the people up on their high horse yelling at people for asking what's going on because we as in the fans, most 95% of the fans that are asking about what's going on are not asking for details about his personal life. I do
Right,
not need to know exactly what's going on. What I
right,
need to know is his professional availability. That
right,
is a completely different discussion
right,
than the minor details. I mean, I know it's a major event, but like the actual details of what's going on with him, I do not care. I
right,
assume it's bad or stressful or whatever. I understand that he can have his privacy. I don't need to know. What I need to know is, do we expect him to come back this year? Do we expect
right,
him to be, a contributor on this team moving forward? Or is he going to be part of the playoff push? Is he going to be part of the playoffs, like the actual game? I don't know. And that's the part that sucks, and that's the part that I think we can separate from the whole human element of it, and just wonder if our star left tackle is ever going to play for the team again. That's fine to wonder without getting all up in his business. We don't need to know his business. We need to know if he's going to be part of the business in the future.
right, right. And we'll obviously keep the listeners updated if we hear anything. But as of right now, no news, no news, no news. Let's turn to something that we do have a little bit of news about. News, innuendo, rumor, trade rumors. The trade deadline is 2 weeks from yesterday. It is November 4th. In the afternoon sometime. I forget the exact time. I think it's like 2 Central. So we're rapidly approaching the trade deadline, and as expected, the Chiefs are being mentioned as potential buyers. They're the best team in the NFL, as we know, but they also have some clear positions of need. Jeremy Fowler of ESPN says that they're reported to be shopping for defensive line and running back help. That's what everybody knows the Chiefs need. That's what we, the fans, can all see that they need. And obviously, with Omar Norman-Lott going down, that becomes a more pronounced need than it was a week ago, even. So, Jeremy Fowler, as I mentioned, he put out a list of 25 trade candidates that he thinks are the 25 players most likely to be traded. And two of those guys were linked to the Chiefs. One was Jets running back Breece Hall, and the other was Dolphins edge rusher Jalen Phillips as possible targets for the Chiefs. So I kind of asked Randy this question last week, but I didn't get your opinion on it. I'm curious to know what you, as a my co-host, think about this situation. Like, if you could have, and when we posed it to Randy, it was more hypothetical. It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Phillips. It was
Mm-hmm.
a defensive line or edge player of the Melvin Ingram, Terrell Suggs mold. Uh, Jalen Phillips or Breece Hall? Who are you acquiring and why?
Well, yeah, really interesting because obviously there's more room on the defensive line depth chart to
Right.
acquire talent than there is the running backs. If you acquire a running back, you've got three on the active roster right now, and maybe the offense is okay with four if you cut back again on another wide receiver, maybe Niho Remigio or something like that. But in general, I don't know if the offense, as it's currently constructed right now, can add another piece without saying goodbye to somebody that I mean, they're not going to cut or release Brashard Smith. Like that's not going to happen.
Right. Right.
And if Kareem had gotten hurt in this game,
Sure.
seriously, or Pacheco, then obviously they need some running back help there. But they're both healthy, and if they're both
Right.
healthy, the team is not saying goodbye to either one of those guys either.
And
So
not from an ability standpoint, like because
correct.
clearly they
Yes.
could be
Yes.
replaced. But I agree with
Yes.
you that it's really hard to
To see it.
imagine the Chiefs cutting Kareem Hunt or
No.
Isaiah Pacheco. They're guys that have been integral parts of this team. I mean, Pacheco has 2 Super Bowl rings, and came in with that 22 draft class that just won back-to-back Super Bowls out of the gate. And
Yeah.
Kareem Hunt is like this great redemption story. We haven't gotten him a Super Bowl ring yet.
Not
And,
yet.
I agree with you. Like, it's weird because that is clearly the position that the Chiefs need to upgrade, but it
Well,
is hard to see them having 4 running backs on the roster.
and the other thing is Brees Hall would be a big upgrade.
He
Like
would.
he
He
would be
would.
a guy that if
100%.
you bring him in and give him touches that are currently going to Pacheco or Hunt, you're going to see an uptick in production. I mean, he's
Huge.
a dog,
Yeah.
and I don't know. I haven't watched nearly as much Dolphins because I don't like to watch train wrecks if I can help it, and
Sure.
I don't really know how Jalen Phillips is playing this year. I do know that adding an edge rusher on this team. I mean, he's going to take snaps from Mike Dana probably if that's the case, which is fine, but it's not like I don't know. I don't see the gap as big from Phillips to, even though, obviously we could use pass rush help, clearly,
We could.
but it's probably more likely to be a DT, especially with Norman Lott going down. I
Sure.
think that's if I were to free bet right now on what position the Chiefs acquire, if it's just one, I don't
Mhm.
think it's an edge. I think it's a defensive tackle.
I agree. I agree with that. And I think, they may want another Charles Omenihu who can play kind of
Yeah.
inside and out. They may want a guy like that has a little bit more flexibility if they go that route. But yeah, I agree with you. Like I think and part of it depends on cost too. Like who is
Yes.
going to cost more to acquire. Jalen Phillips has 2 sacks this year. He had 1 sack last year. I mean, the production. He only played 4 games last year because he
Yeah.
obviously he got hurt, and he's still kind of working his way back from that injury. But he's 26. He had 8.5 sacks as a rookie. So there's been some history of production there. It's going to be interesting because I think, I mean, if I had to bet, I'm certain the Chiefs will make at least one move.
Yeah, I think so too. And they've shown that they're not afraid to add at the deadline. I mean, that's been
Right.
that's been kind of a hallmark of Brett Veach so far, and it's never really the biggest, splashiest, craziest move, but it's always kind of a last piece or a just while we're at it. We know there are teams out there that are losing right now that are going to just try and get something for their players. I mean, that's what the NFL trade deadline is good for these losing teams to at least acquire a little bit extra assets for a
Sure.
player that's
Yeah,
on the way
100%.
out. It's good for those
And I mean,
teams.
Brees Hall's in a contract year. I mean, like they
Yes,
literally
yes,
are,
they have to move him. I think the Jets will move him regardless of if the Chiefs are
yeah,
calling or not.
right.
But yeah, I think the Chiefs will do something. I don't blame Jalen Phillips for not trying his hardest this year. Miami's a mess. That
Yeah,
situation
no, of
is
course.
really gross, and I'm surprised he's even gotten on the sack board with the way their season has gone. So we'll see how it goes.
Another target that the former PFF guys, the now check the mic guys,
Mhm.
threw out last week, and I've not seen this reported anywhere, but it makes a lot of sense. Is Malik Collins,
Yeah.
a D tackle for the Browns? He's 30 years old. He is the number 2 graded defensive interior lineman in the league this year.
Three and a half
18,
sacks so far.
18
7 games.
pressures, which is 11th.
Mhm.
And this was actually before last week. I haven't pulled his updated numbers, but he's from Kansas City. He was born in Kansas City, Kansas.
That's
And when I
right.
tweeted
I
this
forgot about
out,
that.
I said he was from KCK, and people were quick to
Uh-oh.
correct me that he went to high school at Center High School in Kansas City. In fact, one of my followers, I think, was a substitute teacher for him at some point
Oh,
back
cool.
in the day. So,
Cool.
people that get territorial about the Kansas Missouri distinction,
Yeah.
which I cared about more when I lived in Kansas City than I do now.
Sure.
We're quick to point out that he is from Kansas City, Missouri. In a sense, he was born in Kansas City, Kansas. The point is,
Yeah, he's from Kansas City.
He
Yeah.
plays for the Browns. He's at a position of extreme need for the Chiefs. He's under contract for another season after this. Very reasonable salary. This is one that makes a lot of sense. Now, he does play on the same defensive line as Myles Garrett. So,
Yeah,
I guess the true
but
tape
he'd go to
hounds,
Chris Jones.
right, exactly. The true
You
tape
know,
hounds have to get in there and say, how much of this is,
that's
how much
fine.
of his number two defensive interior, PFF grade is Malik Collins versus the guy standing next to Myles Garrett.
Let me
But
ask you: does he have a pulse?
he does. He does.
Bring him in.
And yeah, and he's big. And
He's big, 6'2". Yeah,
he gets pressure and he's from Kansas City. I
yeah,
mean, it ticks a lot of boxes, right? Like
yeah.
uh we know that the Chiefs enjoy bringing in players. And Brees Hall, by the way, also has a local connection. He's a Wichita guy, I believe, if memory serves. So, we were talking, if you want to extend to the greater kingdom.
Yeah, he went to Iowa State, but I didn't know that before that he was from Wichita. So
Yeah.
good pull.
So, Malik Collins is
Oh,
an
Omaha, not
interesting.
Wichita. Sorry, Omaha.
Sure. Okay.
Close.
Close, sure. I mean, same
Omaha's in
drive,
Chiefs Kingdom.
same drive time from Kansas City, more or less.
Absolutely,
So,
absolutely.
it's in that same little radius. Malik Collins would be an interesting one for me. I have not seen any direct rumors tying either of these guys to the Chiefs' potential trade targets, but there's two defensive interior linemen that have played for the Chiefs, that have won rings for the Chiefs, and currently play for other teams that are not in contention. One, of course, is Cam Saunders' brother, Taylor Swift's backup dancer, most famous probably for that connection, but Colin Saunders, who is currently with the Jacksonville. Is he with Jacksonville now, or was
Yeah,
he
he's
still
with
with the Saints?
Jacksonville. They
Yeah,
they traded for him.
that's right. So you've got
They
Colin
traded for
Saunders.
him
Now
this
that,
year.
yeah,
So
exactly. So that would be maybe a little bit trickier than if he was still with the Saints, obviously, because the Jags are another AFC contender. On the other hand, late round pick swap, maybe you could get that done. And then the other one, of course, is Big Mike Pennell, who you already alluded to,
yeah.
was a surprise cut by the Chiefs. He went to the Bengals. He has played well for the Bengals this year. Chris Jones is, anytime somebody puts a microphone in front of Chris Jones, it feels like he's agitating for Mike Pennell to come back.
Yeah, yeah,
Now he was directly asked about it this last week when he was on the podium, but he said, "Gotta bring my brother back." Now he is playing for the Cincinnati Bengals, who surprisingly are 3-4 with Joe Flacco. They
yeah.
actually are right behind the Chiefs in the playoff standings, which we'll talk about in a second.
Mhm.
They at some point will get Joe Burrow back, presumably. I mean, assuming
Yeah,
that guy
maybe.
doesn't have another injury or another setback, you just never know with that
And
guy.
he's also got to make it on top of the depth chart now.
That's right. He also has to outplay 40-year-old Joe Flacco to get his job back. There's just almost no chance of that happening.
Mhm.
So, it both interesting situations where they're in kind of like, and the Jags are currently in a playoff position. They're in fact in the seventh seed, one spot ahead of the Chiefs. So
Yeah, you're welcome.
would either exactly would either of these teams consider giving back, doing the Chiefs' favorite thing, which is to reacquire players that they already had and let go?
So I think no.
I think
Um,
no. I think probably
I
no too.
think just based on the fact that the Jags literally traded for Bink in the preseason,
Hmm.
like they're not then just gonna unless I mean, I don't know. I guess if the Chiefs come calling and they give him more than they gave up to get him, and it's a net positive for the Jags, maybe the Jags and Chiefs, don't really have a ton of trade history that I can think of one way or the other. Like I mean, I don't think they've worked with each other a ton. But the Bengals, I think it's much less likely. I think the Bengals see the Chiefs as, a rival and as
Yeah.
a
Right.
opponent that they really, really don't like. They know that when Big Mike went over there, it rubbed people here the wrong way. I'm sure that tickled them, to get one on the Chiefs because they haven't been able to do it in the actual games in a while. And I don't see either of those. I agree that the Chiefs sure love bringing back old friends. I mean, that's a long tradition for them in that front office. I maybe what does it is Colin Saunders tweeted, "Whoever invented burn ends, thank you. That shit, the perfect cut, like little barbecue meat nuggets, and then a tiered face." So like he was thinking about burn. This was on Monday. He was thinking about
Yeah,
burn
yeah.
ends. He
Sure.
was thinking about how he missed Kansas City. I'm sure, maybe he just goes to the front office and says, "Look, I got to go back to my brothers. You got to send me over there." And maybe that's how it happens. But I don't think either of those teams are going to make it easy.
Sometimes that does work. Like we've
Yeah,
seen it before with
yeah.
I mentioned Chiefs legend Terrell Suggs.
Yeah.
Yeah, it worked with Terrell Suggs. Terrell Suggs he was further into his career, and he also is a future Hall of Famer.
How
So
often should it work?
he had a little bit more gravitas, but he basically just went to, I don't even remember which team he was on.
Ravens
Uh,
before, or no, Arizona before us.
that's right, because the Ravens were trying to claim him, and he
Yeah.
said, "I would like to be released, and I would like for no one to claim me except for the Baltimore Ravens." The
Yeah.
Chiefs said, "Too bad, we're taking you." He
Yoink.
showed up. He won the ring, so he made the right choice. But I mean, that does occasionally happen. Tyler Lockett just requested his release from the
Sure.
Titans. Another guy that's in the twilight of his career, so
Yep.
it would be more surprising for that to be granted for Colin Saunders. But somebody like Mike Pennell, like if Mike Pennell went to the Bengals and said, "I would like
I'm
to be
out.
released so that I can go sign with
Smoke
the
bomb.
Chiefs," uh, I mean, they probably would.
Hmm.
They probably would do it. And to be frank, I mean, the Bengals then they wouldn't have to pay a salary for the rest of the year. So
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see.
Bengals
I,
management might be all in favor of that.
maybe the Chiefs should probably try and bring in some new blood, though. Maybe
They,
for
they
once.
probably should. They probably should. We will find out in the next couple of weeks what the Chiefs are going to do. Really quick note here: happy anniversary to the Mahomes Baker Mayfield college game of yore, where Pat
Mm.
threw 88 times, 52 completions for 734 yards, 5 touchdowns and a pick, plus 85 yards on the ground, and of course lost that game to Baker 66-59.
Classic.
Oklahoma taking out Texas Tech, but that was 8, 9 years ago today. It was today, but I don't remember how many years ago it was. So
Yeah, really
trip.
just an unbelievable college game. That was crazy. A lot of pros in that game, a lot of scoring. Exactly what college football should be. Just up and down touchdowns constantly. Don't give me these
Totally.
13 to 10 final scores. This isn't the NFC East. Come on. Let's play some football.
Let's talk about
what is happening.
So this is kind of annoying, but it's on my radar. We have to talk about it. The Chiefs are technically still outside of the AFC playoff picture. Technically,
Yes.
they are the 8th seed. This is despite virtually every publication of note, any serious power ranking out there ranking the Chiefs as the best team in football. Danny
That's got to be the
Perkins.
first time that's happened in a long time.
I agree. I
Week
agree.
7, 8, a team outside the playoff hunt is pretty much universally considered the best team in football. That's wild.
Yes, it is wild, and it's also correct.
Yes.
But it does
Yes.
mean that technically, if the season ended today, the Chiefs would not be in the playoffs.
Can you
So I
imagine?
do want to talk about the teams that are currently in front of us. We do this periodically throughout the season, and it's gotten a lot weirder since the last time we did this. So
Yeah.
the 6th and 7th seeds, the teams that are just directly in front of the Chiefs with the same record, 4-3, are the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Los Angeles Chargers, who both have tiebreakers over the Chiefs because they beat the Chiefs head to head. And
Yep.
the Chiefs will get another shot at the Chargers, but they will not get another shot at the Jags. If they finish with the same record as the Jags will be the higher seed. And that's just the way it is. This is an interesting one because it is a 3-team tie, which means it goes to a different tie-breaking procedure. But if you're the team that has lost to the other two teams, you're just never going to win the tiebreaker. So this is an interesting one because the Jags just lost a game this past weekend where they looked pretty bad. The Chargers also lost a game to the Colts where they looked terrible and got completely outmatched. They did play to the final whistle, and we're going for it on 4th down, trying to come back down 3 scores late 4th quarter. And it's a miracle that nobody was seriously hurt in their vain attempts to get back into that game late. But neither of these teams seem to be very good, but they have both beaten the Chiefs, which is frustrating.
Well, they both beat the Chiefs. Yes, but okay, since the Chargers started the year 3-0 and everybody said this is the year of the Chargers, they swept the AFC West.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was fired up about them. They have lost at the Giants. They lost to the Commanders, who I don't think we'll talk about. I don't think they're very good. They barely won in Miami, 29-27 on a last second.
As you
Miami
is
just a pit of despair.
It might have the worst vibes in the entire league.
Yes,
this is a league that includes the Jets, it includes the
right,
Raiders,
the Browns. I mean,
the Browns.
Yeah, right. And then the Colts, they lost by 2 touchdowns, and it wasn't even really as close as that final score this week. So I think the Chargers are for sure arrow down. I mean, everybody can see that they're struggling.
Right.
And the Jags have lost 2 in a row. They not only got their asses beat by the Rams in London in their second home. London's supposed to be where the Jags bring other teams in and beat them with experience. But then the week before that in Duval, they lost to the Seahawks. And the Seahawks are a good team, obviously. But they were 4-1 and beat the Chiefs on Monday Night Football, and they were the kings of the world. And now they've fallen back down and are 4-3. So I mean, both of those teams' vibes are pointing down, whereas obviously the Chiefs are through the roof. So I don't see them being on the same level for very long, I hope.
They seem pretty gettable. They seem pretty gettable.
Very gettable.
Unfortunately, they both have already gotten the Chiefs, so
yeah,
we're a little bit behind the 8 ball there. But the Jags do also have, just by strength of schedule, the official NFL metric, which is not super important or informative or good. Their schedule does pick up a little bit. The Chargers is pretty similar to us. It's a little bit easier than ours because they're playing a second place schedule and we're playing a first place schedule. But
other than that, it's the same divisions and stuff. And yeah, I mean, usually your strength of schedule within your division is going to be pretty similar.
And we play them again, so we get another shot at the Chargers. The 4th and 5th seeds also have the same record. They're a half game ahead of the Chiefs, one better in the loss column. The 4 and 2 AFC North leading Pittsburgh Steelers, and the 4 and 2 second place in the AFC East trailing Buffalo Bills. Just 4 and 2 teams with the same record, just identical teams. Just like I mean, these teams are both weird, right? Because the Steelers, they've never had a losing record with Mike Tomlin. They also haven't won a playoff game with Mike Tomlin since 2016. Yeah, they have a 41-year-old quarterback. Yeah, exactly. Who was that against? They have a 41-year-old quarterback in Aaron Rodgers. They have the highest paid defense in the league, but it's bad. Like it's been like a bottom 5 defense. They just got absolutely waxed by 40-year-old Joe Flacco, who had been with the Bengals for like 10 days. And it just got completely, utterly dominated. We've seen it, the Jamar Chase experience, when we had, Dan Sorensen out there in coverage. And like, I don't know who's playing for the Steelers, but like, it looked like Dan Sorensen was back there just in terms of the results, the outcome of the game on Thursday. And the Bills, I mean, obviously Josh Allen's amazing. We both think he's probably the best quarterback, our second best quarterback in the league, behind our guy, obviously. And, has played really well. He was the MVP last year, has played okay this year, but a little bit heavier in the turnovers than he's been in the past, and the explosive plays are down. And, like Bills fans have been complaining about the offensive supporting cast for Josh Allen for a couple of years. On the receiving side, there's no alpha dog ever since Stephon Diggs left. They haven't had a number one wide receiver that they can get the ball to. They have a great offensive line. They have a couple of pretty good tight ends. They have a really good running back in James Cook. But they don't have, like a number one receiver. They don't have a Rashee Rice. They don't even have an Xavier Worthy. They could have had an Xavier Worthy.
Yeah, they thought they got one when they drafted Keon Coleman.
But they do not.
He's not very good.
They should not. And their defense has been bad. I mean, their defense has been bad.
Worse than the Steelers bad. The Steelers have been like disappointing, and the Bills have been downright bad on defense. And, season recap here, the Pittsburgh went into that game at the Jets, the Aaron Rodgers revenge game, and beat the Jets 34-32. Now, the Jets are the only winless team in football.
Sure,
and
right.
They scraped one out, and then they lost at home to the Seahawks by 2 touchdowns. Again, Seahawks, good team, but Seahawks they lost that one. Yeah. And then they won at the Patriots. Before the Patriots, we'll talk about them, kind of figured some stuff out. They only beat them by 7. Then they beat the Vikings at home by 3. The Vikings have been up and down, but not not super good.
I mean, the Carson Wentz Vikings,
right?
I mean,
exactly.
Which honestly,
he might be the best version of the Vikings.
It might be, but it's also not very good. Yeah.
And then they beat the Browns at home, and that was the first Dylan Gabriel debut game. And I mean, they beat them easily, but everybody can beat the Browns. And then they just lost to Joe Flacco and the Bengals. So they haven't even really done very much that I would say is very impressive. They're 4-2, but everybody who watched Aaron Rodgers last year, he's back to being like, decent. He's fine, but he's certainly not MVP. He's not, as Warren Sharp tweets, vintage Aaron Rodgers with he's fine. And then the Bills, I mean, a tale of two seasons so far. They started the year off, they were going to lose that Ravens game, and then they pulled it out of the fire and beat what we know to be a pretty bad Ravens team 41-40. And then they went at the Jets and they smoked them. And that makes more sense for playing the Jets than what the Steelers did.
Sure.
And then they beat the Dolphins and only by 10. And the Dolphins were pretty feisty in that game. That was a 3-point game in the fourth quarter. And
it was
I mean, again, we've talked about 4 times on the show how much the Dolphins are bad. And then after that, they beat a pretty mediocre Saints team by 12 and were struggling with that team for a while too. And mediocre might be giving the Saints some credit. They're not very good this year either. And then the wheels kind of fell off over the last 2 weeks. They lost at home to the Patriots on that Sunday night game where, I mean, we'll talk about them again a little bit, but Drake May looked really good. And the Bills finally started to turn the ball over. They had gone a crazy number of games. I forget what the number was, but without a turnover or losing the turnover battle,
like 2
they
years
went
that they hadn't lost the turnover battle.
And now they've lost it in back-to-back weeks with the Patriots game and then losing at the Falcons by 10. Losing at the Falcons by 10, you only score 14 points against that team. And the Falcons, again, they're a middle-of-the-pack team.
Hey, I mean, the Falcons got blown out by the Panthers.
Right,
the Falcons
right. They got shut out. I think it was 30-0 or something.
It was. And then they just lost to the Niners, who are playing like backups across everywhere. The board.
So both of those teams that are above the Chiefs there at 4-2 are fine. They're fine teams. They'll probably both be playoff teams, but like there's nothing that either of them have shown that they're going to be some powerhouse that the Chiefs have to contend with. I mean, including Buffalo. Like they're struggling, and maybe they'll get it back on track. Their defense is really, really struggling, but they're getting some secondary help back, and their first round pick, the rookie who's been hurt all year, is now practicing. And so, I mean, we'll see how it goes, but they should have. The other thing about these teams is that they had an opportunity. The Chiefs were floundering at 2-3. These teams should have built themselves a insurmountable lead on the Chiefs while they could, so that when the Chiefs inevitably rip off the rest of their games, that they could still compete with them. They're not going to be able to do that because they're a half game ahead of the Chiefs.
It's true. They missed opportunity, especially for the Bills, who the Chiefs play.
Yes.
We don't get the Steelers.
We do.
Or we do. Yeah, that's right. We do play the.
Yeah, we got a chance at both of those teams, and we'll see how it goes.
We'll see how it goes. The third and second seeds also have the same record. The 5-2 Denver Broncos.
We don't get the Steelers. All right, I had you had that right. I thought we played all the remaining AFC contenders. It was the Colts.
It's fine. You can edit it out. It's a post effect.
I'll keep it in, guys. I was wrong. We'll shout out to Austin for getting that one right. All right, keep going.
Nailed it. Third and second seeds, the 5-2 AFC West leading Denver Broncos, and the 5-2 AFC East leading New England Patriots. Two very different teams that have somehow found their way to the same record. The Broncos, a good roster with a bad quarterback, and the Patriots, a fairly bad roster with a really good quarterback. Yeah. The Patriots also have the advantage of playing historically easy schedule by PFF metrics. I mean, by DVOA, they had the third easiest schedule ever coming into the season, like of all time. By PFF grades, I heard today they have the 32nd easiest schedule so far. And they also have the 32nd easiest remaining schedule. So, I mean, you hardly ever see that. Like
32nd hardest.
Yes, 32nd hardest. Excuse me. Yes.
Easiest schedule.
They have the easiest schedule, the number one easiest 32nd hardest schedule in the league to date, and also going forward.
That's crazy.
Which is a pretty nice little situation for them.
Sure, cool to play the Jets and the Dolphins twice.
Someday, scientists will research why the AFC East is historically so soft every year. But they are at 5-2. They've already beaten the Bills once head-to-head in Buffalo, so they still get them in Foxborough. They have a really easy schedule. They've got a good head coach in Mike Vrabel, and they have a great quarterback who is doing things that no young quarterback has done since Patrick Mahomes in 2018. He's reeling off these streaks of 200-plus yard games with over 100 passer rating that Pat was the second guy to do after, Dan Marino in 85. So we just are 84, excuse me. We have an interesting team there that is almost certainly going to make the playoffs with their remaining schedule and a 5-2 record so far. And then you got the Broncos, who unfortunately won on Sunday against a very feisty Giants team that should have beaten them. Did not, unfortunately, beat them because their kicker missed 2 extra points. Jackson Dart threw a pick when they were driving to essentially run out the clock and let the Broncos get a quick score. Their defense was just completely, totally gassed on the last half of the fourth quarter. They let the Broncos score 33 points in one quarter to lose that game. Pretty regrettable. I can tell you that the local reaction to that game is, oh my God, the Broncos are,
They're back.
Super Bowl contenders. The correct response to a game like that is, oh my God, we almost got blown out by the Giants, and they held us scoreless for 3 quarters and change. We did not play well. We should have lost this game. That would be the sane and appropriate reaction to a win like that. But of course, Broncos fans do not live in reality. So here we have the division leading 5-2 Broncos. They're 1 game ahead of the Chiefs, and the Chiefs still play them twice. And you've got the 5-2 Patriots.
So I knew that the Giants kicker shanked the late extra point after they scored with a minute to go to make it only a 2-point lead instead of a 3-point lead. What I did not remember is that he shanked one earlier in the game. That is, of course, household name Jude McAtamney, who's the
street name Jude McAtamney.
Right. But that game was just a classic 2 bad teams going at it. I mean, that's 33-32 against the Giants. That's a game that it doesn't really matter if you lost the game or won the game. It's proof that you're not you shouldn't be taken seriously. And the week before that was, as you described, that painful, horrible 13-11 win against the Jets, where again the Jets are winless, and again neither team deserved to. I mean, neither team's good in that one. And then they had the Eagles win in Philly, but that game was. I mean, the Eagles were struggling a lot.
Yeah, then the Eagles got blown out by the Giants the week after that.
Exactly. Right. So which of those 3 teams is any good at all? Probably neither of them. The only comfortable win they've had all year long was the Bengals win when obviously when everyone realized that Jake Browning was not the answer for the Bengals, and they had nothing on offense.
For Joe Flacco
and they traded for Joe Flacco. Exactly. They lost to the Chargers. They lost to the Colts, two fine teams, and then they beat the Titans by 8 in week 1. The Denver Broncos are not a good football team. They're like you said, they're a pretty good roster, but their quarterback is not good enough. Bo Nix is bad, and he's holding them back, and they are going to gambler's fallacy their way into thinking that they're just eventually going to be right on a quarterback, and they're just going to stick with him until it works. And it's just not going to work. And then,
go ahead. Well, finish your thought, because I have one thing to add about the Broncos.
Okay, but sure. Well, if you want to add about the Broncos, go for it now, because I'm going to then transition to the Patriots. So what's up
we
with
have to talk about the Patriots. I just have to add a funny thought about locally how people perceive this.
Yeah,
the problem's not Bo Nix being bad. The problem is actually Sean Payton is bad at calling plays.
That's fine too. It can be both.
They all want Sean Payton to give up play calling. Now, mind you, this is the same guy who was an excellent play caller with Taysom Hill as his quarterback, Jameis Winston, Drew Brees. Obviously, they were the most prolific offense in NFL history there for a spell. And it turns out it's Sean Payton's fault that Bo Nix is not any good. He's holding Bo Nix back, actually. So it's not Bo Nix that's holding the offense back. It's actually Sean Payton. Now,
what's really funny is that sounds a lot like the Russell Wilson days.
It does. For sure.
What has changed? They bring in a quarterback that they're really excited about. When that quarterback sucks, now you point blame to anybody else. I mean, it's just all. Oh, first of all, speaking of Russell Wilson, obviously there's been some beef there with he and Sean Payton. Shout out to Russ for roasting Sean Payton on Twitter.
He cooked him.
Payton said after the game that he was talking to the Giants brass and was saying, I really wish you guys would have made that change long after our game. And that change, of course, was going from Russell Wilson to Jackson Dart. He claims he was trying to just be, complimentary of Jackson Dart. But then Russ took off the church mask and went on Twitter and was like, classless but totally expected. Didn't know that you were bounty hunting through the media. Hashtag incredible. Let's ride. I mean, and obviously Russ hasn't busted out Let's Ride since the Denver days.
Incredible.
Just a good.
I mean, the Bountygate ref was
Bountygate reference.
That's like that's
like Sean Payton's number one black eye, and he just brought it out the moment that. I mean, that was not very Russell Wilson like, and if Russell Wilson does something not Russell Wilson like, that's good, because Russell Wilson like is lame.
Yeah, I mean Russell Wilson was in like a freshman in college when Bountygate happened, by the way. So he went deep into the bag of tricks. Anyway, sure. The Patriots.
Yeah, they're just it's one of those teams like the Colts, very similar. We'll talk about them, but if a team isn't challenged very much in the regular season,
Yeah.
I want those teams to win a bunch of games and be in the playoffs. I
Sure.
want to play those teams in the playoffs because the Chiefs are trial by fire and everybody's best shot and their tough schedule and all that stuff. But it makes it so when the playoffs come around, they're prepared and they're battle tested and they're all that stuff that that we've talked about. And this Patriots team, they're fine. They're feisty. They lost week 1 to the Raiders, which
Yeah.
we'll talk about how
Yeah.
how much of a surprise that is for other teams. They beat the Dolphins at Miami by 6. Again, talked about the Dolphins many times. All these teams that have good records have beaten the Dolphins.
Yes.
It's a funny.
Many of them have beaten the Jets.
Yes,
So,
exactly right. And then they lost to the Steelers, and that was a game that I still feel like people, they were 1-2. The Patriots were at that point, and everybody kind of just thought same old with this team for the next little bit. Then they beat a pretty gamey Panthers team. They beat them 42-13. That was very impressive. They looked good. Then there was the big game at the Bills. They beat them 23-20, and they looked good. They looked like they executed down the stretch.
Yeah.
They were tied late, and Drake May pulled off some miracle passes to get them down the field. And then, they win at the Saints by 6. That's a game you're supposed to win, but they did win it. And then they blasted the Titans for their 3rd road win in a row in 3 weeks, 31-13 at the Titans. And again, you're supposed to beat the Titans, but the Patriots of all the teams we've talked about so far, yes, they have the easiest schedule, but you got a coach in Mike Vrabel that knows what he's doing. You've got a quarterback that's young and feeling invincible and athletic and has a good arm and can make all the plays. You got a defense in New England that knows what they're doing. It's a formidable team. It's just, I think that it's the type of team that the Chiefs would handle business against when the chips actually are down and they actually have to, because a team like New England isn't going to play a team like the Chiefs in the regular season.
Yeah.
Like their schedule is cake. So, they're an interesting story. I still obviously hate the Patriots and Boston and everything about Boston sports and all that. And I always will. But I found it pretty easy to pull for the Patriots against the Bills. I find them to be a pretty palatable story. We'll see if it continues.
Yeah, and they're maybe a year early,
yeah, totally.
But
that happens. I mean, you can be a year early.
Of all the teams that we've gone through, I mean, you have the combination of a young, extremely talented quarterback who's playing extremely well, and a coach who has. I mean, let's not forget. Vrabel, as coach of the Titans, handed the Chiefs that 27-3 loss in 2021. Obviously, the Titans were pretty competitive with Ryan Tannehill in the AFC Championship game in 2019.
Right.
They were the number 1 seed, I think, the year after that.
He's a good coach.
He's a good coach. He knows what he's doing. He's given the Chiefs some trouble in the past. It's a well-coached team. It does seem like a hard sell for that team without having played anyone good to come to Arrowhead or even to play the Chiefs in Foxborough and knock off the 3-time champions. But that's an interesting team. That brings us to the 6-1 Indianapolis Colts, who have beaten some of the teams on this list. Shane Steichen is a really good coach. He's done it with Jalen Hurts. He made Jalen Hurts look like an MVP candidate. He, of course, was the offensive coordinator in that Philly Super Bowl, where the Chiefs got in a shootout, won against the Eagles by 3 in 2022, and then goes to take over the Colts job. He gets stuck with Anthony Richardson, who, despite tantalizing talent, appears to be unable to actually quarterback. And then he brings in, Chris Ballard, old friend alert, brings in Daniel Jones to take this team over. He wins the job, and Anthony Richardson gets demoted. Then he injures his eye, doing the warm-up dance the other week, which is ugh. It makes me shudder to think about it. But in any case, he's playing incredibly well. The Colts still have a good offensive line. That's kind of been part of their DNA the last several years. They have Jonathan Taylor, who the Chiefs could have had instead of McCole Hardman, and it's kind of a bummer. Leading the league in rushing, he's obviously amazing. The defense, that's what gives me pause, because they have Lou Anarumo, who notoriously has forced Patrick Mahomes into some of his worst games. He obviously was the Bengals defensive coordinator in 2021 when the Chiefs lost in the AFC Championship game. That second half against Lou Anarumo in the AFC Championship game
haunts me.
That was the worst Patrick has ever looked. in a game of the worst half of football he's ever played as a Chief, and he's thrown in a couple of stinkers there. I mean, like it used to be at the time, it was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
we've never
Never
seen
seen anything like
anything
it.
approaching this
No.
level of suck, and he's
No.
thrown in a couple of stinkers since then. Which is okay. That's completely
He's
fine.
human.
You know, he's human, and he needs to show people that he's human every once in a while, just to let them think that they have a chance. That to me is the biggest name to fear here. I do think that, you know, of course, the last couple of times the Chiefs have played against Lou Anarumo, they've had success. Patrick Mahomes beat Lou Anarumo in the rematch in the AFC Championship game with Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Mecole Hardman played like 3 snaps. Kadarius Toney. Yeah, just a cast of bumbling fools at wide receiver. Travis Kelce, you know, barely able to move with the knee sprain in that game time decision. But he is one of those coaches that has had success against Patrick in the past, and I don't know. The thing is, this team is 6-1, and like they're the team to chase for the number 1 seed. You know, like the Colts might be the number 1 seed in the AFC, which is crazy.
And the Colts also, or this is kind of a theme too, but they really, and maybe this is more of an indictment on the AFC, but they don't really have a hard schedule either.
No,
and
they don't. No, nobody in the AFC does.
Nobody really does. There's a lot
Except
of bad
us,
teams in football right now,
somehow.
except for some reason all the good teams play the Chiefs. But you know, you look ahead for the Colts, I'll just rip off the remaining games. Titans, Steelers, Falcons at Arrowhead.
After their bye week.
After their bye week, of course.
Yeah, of course.
And then Texans, Jags, Seahawks, Niners, Jags, Texans. And you know, the Texans, obviously, if they were doing anything, maybe that schedule would look a little bit more daunting, but they're a pretty bad football team. The Colts is both a good and bad sign. It's like the bad sign is, number one, the Colts are our daddies. And if we're going to play the Colts in the playoffs, I know Pat got his first playoff win of his career against the Colts, and that was
retired
cool.
Andrew Luck.
Retired Andrew Luck in the snow.
And
busted him up. I mean, it was not close. But I'm never, ever, ever for the rest of my life going to be comfortable going into a game against the Indianapolis Colts. I'm just not going to be able to do it. It doesn't matter how many times the Chiefs prove me wrong. They represent all of the failures of this franchise for 20 plus years in the playoffs. And then you have, you know, a team that runs the ball really well. Jonathan Taylor's, if not the best running back in football right now, certainly top 2 or 3 consideration. He's awesome. And they're taking care of the ball. They're pretty explosive on offense. They play good defense. They've got, as you said, a defensive coordinator that's had the Chiefs number, at a time. There's a lot about the Colts that is pretty daunting and pretty just annoying. The fact that this team basically came out of nowhere. No one expected. Right. The only thing that gives everybody pause, of course, is Daniel Jones. Yeah. That's the one piece that if this were, let's say, you switched and the Raiders had brought in Daniel Jones and the Colts had brought in Geno Smith, who's not even good, but he certainly doesn't have the career grossness that Daniel Jones had going into Indianapolis. Right. Like everyone would be talking about, and they still are really, but everyone would be like, this Colts team is going to just run through everybody. But because it's Danny Dimes or now Indiana Jones, everybody's just kind of like, okay, well, like, it's cute and it's cool and maybe it'll last, but like, how long is it going to last? Are we really expecting Daniel Jones to be in an AFC Championship game? Is that really what everybody's talking about? Like, it just feels like the other shoe's going to drop. And I don't know if it will, but it certainly gives me, if the team the Chiefs are worried about the most in the AFC is the Daniel Jones Indianapolis Colts, that's a pretty good situation to be in. And I think that's the situation the Chiefs are in.
Yeah, and obviously the Chiefs play the Colts in a month.
Yes,
and we'll see how we stack up head to head. It's gonna be really interesting because if you look at the teams that the Colts have beat, you know, like they've beaten the Dolphins.
Yeah, join the club
in week 1, 33-8, by the way, and that was our first inkling that not our first inkling because
they didn't punt all game. They scored every possession. They started the year off scoring in their first, whatever it was, NFL record 10 or 11 or whatever possessions. I mean, they're a unit to start the year. Yeah.
They did beat the Broncos because the Broncos committed a leverage penalty.
Broncos should have beaten
and gave them a re-kick. And the Broncos are not that good. So the Broncos should have beaten them. They did lose to the Rams by a score. You know, the
Rams are good.
The offensive numbers, they lead the league in scoring. They lead the league in offensive DVOA. Some of that is coming from I mean, they
Dolphins,
scored
Titans,
33 on the
Raiders.
Dolphins. They
Yeah.
scored 41 on the Titans. They
Yeah.
put up 40 on the Raiders.
Yeah. Well,
And they put up 38 on the Chargers, who, are walking wounded right now, like they always are. It's an
31 on the
interesting
Cardinals. Cardinals
exactly.
aren't, I mean,
It's
yeah.
an interesting team. It's an interesting team. And your point is well made, because I wanted to spend a second before we go on to recapping Sunday's game. The teams behind the Chiefs, the 9 and 10 seeds, are the 3 and 4 Bengals, who are a game back of the Chiefs with Joe Flacco, and then the 2 and 4 Texans, who are a game and a half back. And so, like, this is kind of the field. Like, you just kind of have to get
Yes.
past one of these teams to be in the playoffs.
Correct.
And are any of these teams any good? Like,
No,
I
they're
guess
not.
I should mention, the Baltimore Ravens are 1 and 5. Lamar did practice today for the first time since the Chiefs game, so he was limited. The other 2 quarterbacks both got snaps. We'll see if he actually plays this week. Seems like if he's practicing on Wednesday, he'll probably give it a go. And frankly, if they lose one more game, they're in a rough spot just from a math standpoint. But
Sure.
that team could maybe come back on the Steelers. They still play them twice. That team could maybe come back on a Steelers team that isn't very good, and maybe they win the AFC North at 9 and 8, or maybe the Bengals, hang in this race long enough to get Joe Burrow back and win that division at 9 and 8. What I feel pretty confident predicting is that none of the teams in the AFC North are going to make it in as a wild card, and so
Correct.
we just have to worry about. We have to hope the Steelers hold on and keep the other 2 teams that could actually that have actual dangerous quarterbacks out. And of
I
course,
don't know.
I'm talking about.
I don't mind playing anybody in the AFC North.
I understand that.
I feel like they're all gettable. Now, I guess if Burrow comes back late in the year, that's the worst case scenario.
I'm saying keeping those 2 quarterbacks out, and I'm of course talking about Lamar Jackson and Joe Flacco.
So,
We
yeah.
don't want to mess.
You're right.
We don't want to mess with that energy. We don't want we don't want to draw the Flacco juice.
No.
But there's just almost no chance of a wild card coming out of that division. And so like the teams ahead of the Chiefs, like, those are pretty much the playoff teams. Maybe a team that's outside the picture behind the Chiefs sneaks in, but like, it's the Jags, Chargers, Steelers, Bills, Broncos, Patriots, and Colts.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
This has been a conference that's had the same 4 division winners now for, I believe, 3 years in a row, possibly 4 even. I mean, it's been, ruled by the Chiefs, the Bills, the Ravens, and the Texans for the last couple of years.
Yep.
And obviously with the Texans and the Ravens both taking a huge step back, and with the Bills looking very beatable and gettable and struggling, and then the Bengals losing Burrow, like, those are all the teams that we've had to worry about over the last couple of years. That's it. That's the field.
That's it.
And so the people that have replaced all those teams, are these other idiots that we haven't had to worry about in a long time. I mean, everyone's talked about how if you look at the top 4 seeds, the Colts, Patriots, Broncos, and Steelers, obviously everyone thinks like, oh, 2011, 2012, like, is this Peyton and Brady and Roethlisberger? And I guess Peyton could have been on the Colts and the Broncos. But point is, these are all teams that were once upon a time the class of the NFL, and they've all in recent times taken a step back and let these other teams dominate for a few years. And now all 4 of them kind of feel like they're finally, finding themselves again. Although I think the Broncos are the biggest pretender there. I think the Colts and the Patriots will be there at the end of the year. And I won't be surprised if the Steelers win the North. But I think the Broncos, that's the spot. That's where the Chiefs just have to pass the Broncos. They're 1 game back of them in the standings. They play them twice, pretty easy to do. And if that's the case, full steam ahead.
Yeah. And, the Broncos, I mean, they have an easier schedule than the Chiefs, obviously, because
but they're much worse.
Everybody has an easier schedule than the Chiefs, but they play the Cowboys this week. They go to Houston. The Broncos don't traditionally travel very well because they have an outrageous, insane home field advantage. They have to play the Command at Washington later in the year when presumably Jaden Daniels will be healthy. They have to play the Packers. They have the Chiefs twice. They have the Jags. So they're definitely gettable. I'm going to be really curious to see what they do against the Cowboys this week. But
me too.
We have to talk about what happened on Sunday because it was incredibly juicy and just absolutely delicious and wonderful. The Chiefs beat the Raiders 31-0. It was the first shutout by the Chiefs of the Andy Reid era, which is now we're regular season shutout. That's correct, because of course they did shut out the
Texans?
oh my God, who was
Texans?
the Texans
30-0?
No, I know, but who was I was gonna throw him in there, throw him under the bus. He
Man,
was
it
was
wasn't
just
Matt
complaining
Schaub,
on
was it?
Twitter. No, he was just complaining on Twitter a couple of days ago too about the Chiefs.
Oh, he was?
Former
Oh,
former
that's
pa
funny.
former Patriot. Yeah,
Oh,
he had the Chiefs outside of his power rankings.
you're right. Former
Uh,
Patriot. Yes. What was that guy's name?
I don't know. We're gonna sit here trying to think of it
No,
forever.
we can do this. This is a guy that we beat in the playoffs. This is
Yeah. And it was his only playoff start, obviously, because this guy was not very good. He played us pretty recently. Like he was post Brady Patriots backup. And I can't remember at all who this guy's name is. I
yeah.
honestly, like, I'm drawing
Brian
a
Hoyer.
complete Brian Hoyer.
Brian Hoyer. Man.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was from the Dome. I didn't look that up. That was
That's good. I'm glad. I was trying to look it up because it was driving me crazy. And
Brian
it's
Hoyer.
bad.
Yes,
It's
the
bad
Chiefs shut out
podcasting
30-0 for their first playoff win in 22 years or whatever it was when they won in 2015. Big deal. So you're right. First shutout of the regular season
and
in the Andy Reid era.
The Chiefs' first regular season shutout since 2011. Shuts just don't happen very often in the NFL.
No, it's hard.
Obviously, the way that the Chiefs did this was insanely dominant. 30 first downs for the Chiefs, 3 for the Raiders. So 10 times as many first downs. The Chiefs had 30 first downs. The Raiders ran 30 offensive plays. We could go through all of these stats. You've seen them. You've known them. You love them. But I'm really curious how we're going to fit this victory into the Chiefs system because, the Chiefs system was developed for the 2023-2024 Chiefs. That's
cardiac Chiefs.
That's exactly when we developed the Chiefs system. That was appropriate for how the Chiefs were winning games. And now this is like the 4th time this year that the Chiefs have blown somebody out. Like all of their wins have been
13 plus.
Have been by 13 or more points. They have blown teams out, which we are completely unused to. So I'm really curious to see how we're going to continue to shoehorn these very dominant victories into a Chiefs system that really is built for nail biter.
Well, let me tell you, buddy, we're not. The Chiefs system of old. We are going to use the Chiefs system this week, but the letters are going to be a little modified because we now have Chief System 2.0, the new Chief system, the Chief system that represents what this team is turning out to be, which is, there's not a lot of drama. There's not a lot of adversity. There's not a lot of, we don't need a lot of hope. Like there's just a lot of the stuff that we did in the old Chief system just falls flat in this modern Chiefs version. And so I will walk you through the Chief system, but I will introduce each letter with a little bit of a new take on it.
Okay.
So we're going to start out at the beginning of the game with C, crush drama, because after an early first down by the Raiders, spoiler alert, don't get used to that. A hold sets them back to 3rd and 17. This is on their opening drive of the game. They couldn't pick up the first down. They punt. Spoiler alert, do get used to that. The punt pins the Chiefs back at their own 8-yard line to start their opening drive. And after touches by Pacheco, Kelsey, and Hunt move that ball out of the 8 up to the 26th, Juju got called for a hold. I didn't really like it a ton, but that's fine. Sets up a 1st and 20, but no problem at all for the Chiefs. Travis Kelsey gets loose down the right sideline. I don't know why the Raiders decided not to cover Travis Kelsey.
Devin White said Devin White was going to win.
Devin White was going to win. He talked in third person, which usually means that, you know what you're doing, but not in that case. Travis Kelsey goes for 44 easy ones down the right side. And then Andy was in his bag in this game, dialed up a fake screen to Noah Gray, where, obviously the Chiefs are a screen team. They've been really good at that. That's one of Andy's calling cards, but he went out for a screen and then he faked the block. He went up the sideline and Pat found him easily. Another 28 yards down the field. They got down to the 2-yard line and the Chiefs said, let's get our boy the ball. And they popped past a 2-yard touchdown to Rashee Rice in his return to action for the early 7-0 lead. The Raiders, as we all remember, they were without Brock Bowers. They were without Jakobi Meyers. We figured, they're probably going to have a hard time moving the ball in this game. They're probably, if they're going to beat the Chiefs, it's probably going to be like down in the mud and not really like a high flying back and forth. But the Chiefs showed on their opening drive that that probably was not going to be a good plan against them. Zero drama to start this one off. They basically crushed the drama from the opening kickoff.
Yeah, I love that because I did not get a chance to watch this game live. I went up to the mountains with some friends and I only took with me my work computer, which belongs to the state of Colorado, and probably shouldn't be streaming crack streams or buff
Yeah,
streams or anything like that. Like,
probably not.
didn't want to risk that. Couldn't get it to work on my mobile because those sites are incredibly sketchy. So I was stuck watching Red Zone, and Red Zone turned out to be a pretty good way to watch the Chiefs offense on Sunday. It was not a good way to watch the Chiefs defense. I did not see a single defensive snap
No.
from the Chiefs while I was watching Red Zone because the Raiders never got the ball into Chiefs territory, let alone into the red zone. They only had 3 first downs the entire game. So the drama was definitely crushed. I mean, I think if we were using the Chiefs system of old,
Yeah.
you know, the drama that we would have to create, the way that we would have had to shoehorn this
How?
in. The drama was just, you know,
can the Chiefs pitch a perfect game?
yeah,
Would that
exactly.
maybe be the drama?
Can the Chiefs
How
pitch a perfect game?
can they be?
How perfect can they be? How good are, you know, this was the debut of Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, and Hollywood Brown, the big 3 that the Chiefs have been trying to get into a game together for the past 2 years. And this is the first game that they played together. And boy, it was spectacular. And, you know, I mean, look, could we have stretched that and create drama? Sure. But like, we're looking forward.
Yes.
Like, we need a new Chiefs system, not just for this game, but for all the games to come. So
yes,
I'm very excited to hear about H.
Well, we're still doing some handling, but this time we're handling business. Let's first see if the Raiders, they wanted to try and handle some business here, right? They just got the 7-0 deficit. They get the ball back. Oh, Geno Smith fumbled the first snap on the next drive. He did jump on it and pick it up, but like, clearly the Raiders were already in a mental position where they just weren't going to play this game. They just weren't in it. And he recovers it. He sets up 3rd and 12. It did look like the Chiefs were going to get off the field. Chuck Amenahu comes in for a sack. It was going to be a, 4th and 18 or 19 or whatever. But there was a McDuffie call for illegal contact that I never saw. And despite my Venmo payment to the refs being on time this week, I made sure that they got my payment like they normally did. They still called my guy Trent McDuffie for an illegal hold. And I don't understand what that's about. We get all the calls. But that was a first down by penalty, one of their 3. They didn't even earn it themselves. Trent McDuffie gave it to him on a 3rd down sack on basically what would have been a turnover. But they got 3 more plays, and they only went a total of 8 yards. So not great. They get to 4th and 2 from their own 46-yard line. And, it's only 7-0. But Pete Carroll decides to punt that ball. That would not be the last time in this game that he just totally gives up and decides he doesn't want to be competitive or play this game. So the Raiders punt after the Trent McDuffie call, but it was still, the drive went nowhere. And then the Chiefs get the ball back, and there's a 3rd and 2 completion to Rice again, move the chains. It looks like, we've got 3rd and Rice back cooking like we did back when everything was all good. And another pass to Rice sets the Chiefs up on 3rd and 1 from the Kansas City 40, but Kareem gets stuffed on the next run. And so the end of the first quarter, starting the second quarter, they come out and it's 4th and 1. And I mean, most people, it's the 40-yard line. I'm kind of expecting it's a easy, it's only 7-0, but like, you can tell the Chiefs are doing what they want. I kind of expected them to punt. That's kind of
sure
what Andy was going to do. But instead, we all know what happened. The Chiefs went to line up, but they tried the hard count, which, they send 2 players hard in motion, Pat's screaming, and then he exclaims for the entire world to hear, everyone watching on the broadcast, that trying to draw a defense off sides with a hard count, quote, fucking never fucking works. And Tony Romo's laughing. He's going, I know, man. I've been there at quarterback. You're going out there. You're trying to get, oh no, they hiked the ball. As Tony Romo was explaining that this is actually, he's right. It never works. They actually hiked the ball to Kareem, who converted the 4th and 1 from the Chiefs territory. And that was the Chiefs' 12th 4th down in 15 attempts on this season. Now, why that's so important or interesting or surprising is that in the Mahomes era, the Chiefs average 12.1 out of 15.8 4th downs per season, including playoff games. So that's 20 game seasons where they're going 12 for 15 over the whole 20 games. They have gone 12 for 15 in 7 games. So they're basically going for it 3 times as often as they have every other year of the Mahomes era. So, and that's Andy. That's Andy knowing this year, they've needed it. They've been kind of behind the gun sometimes, but this time, obviously, it was a comfortable situation. It was on your own 40. It was an early game against the Raiders, and he still decided to go. I love that. And as everyone, kind of in the media has pointed out afterwards, the Chiefs are back on their bullshit when they're trolling the Raiders. They're going out there
Yes.
screaming, it's not going to work, and then running it. They're doing their trick plays. They're coming up, they're pulling out stuff from the bag. It's just it's one of those games that, or one of those plays. The game wasn't over. It was still only 7-0, but essentially as soon as the Chiefs did that, they ended the game. They finished the Raiders right then and there on that play. It was just an academic point to get to the final score. Remaining plays, since they were only at the 40, were of yards of 9, 6, 4, 5, 3, 9, 3, 15, 5, and then 8 with a bullet to Hollywood in the back of the end zone and a 14-0 lead. If that's not handling your business, buddy, I don't know what is.
That's pretty good. It's pretty good to handle your business. It's pretty good to just like, you didn't need to go for it on fourth down.
No,
Like
not at all.
I've been trying to find it again. I know Jesse Newell, I think, had this tweet last week that don't remember the exact parameters he had on this stat, but the number of times that the Chiefs have gone for it in their own territory in the first half of games. I think last week against the Lions was the first time they'd ever done it in the Andy Reid era.
Makes
and
sense.
They did it 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
They went for it on fourth down in the first half in their own territory instead of punting the ball. And, like, I don't want to read too much into that, because I remember they did go for it on fourth down in their own territory in the season opener against the Texans in 2020.
And the big Clyde game.
The big Clyde game out of the gate. And everybody was pretty excited about that. That was back when we were doing moonlighting as unpaid writers. And I remember writing about that, like, hey, this would be pretty cool if, like, we just started doing this more. Like, if we were just going to go for it on fourth down all the time. Those were the heady days. 2019, we just come off the ring. We still had the 2018, 2019 offense. This was kind of before everybody started playing us in the most boring and crass and limiting way possible with the 2 high shells. But this feels pretty real. I mean, those numbers that you gave us are stark. 15 times already this year, when we've been averaging that over 20 game samples. And this is through 7 games. The other thing is, like, sure, last week you didn't have Rashee Rice and you're going against the best team in the league. You definitely did not have to do it this week. Okay. Like,
yes.
Last week you were going
matching Dan Campbell.
Exactly. A very aggressive coach, a very good offense, a very physical team. This week you're going against a completely woebegone Raiders team, and you did not have to do this at all. And so that feels like, now, Andy has traditionally used the Raiders as sort of the clearinghouse for all of his weird trick plays that, like, clearly not quite good enough to make it into, like, a playoff game, that they're going to conceal and use, like Snow Globe. And it actually, I would add the Broncos to that list, because obviously the Broncos were the recipients of Hungry Pig, both variations of that. But this does feel like it's real. It feels like it's sustainable because the Chiefs have been good in short yardage. I mean, you mentioned the conversion percentage. We already alluded to once in the show how automatic Kareem Hunt has been in short yardage. It was just a fun play. And it was fun that we're going for it. And it was fun that the drive then ended in a touchdown, 2 drives, 2 touchdowns, 2 long field spanning, touchdown drives. It really is. And I got to see most of this drive on Red Zone because, the Chiefs were chugging up yards. They were doing cool trick plays. And I've since have gone back and watched the entire game, which was a pleasure. I didn't have to spend a whole lot of time watching the defense because, 30 plays and all that. But it was a joy to watch.
Spend much time watching.
Exactly. It was a joy to watch the offense work. And, I just saw a stat this afternoon that the Chiefs are first in the NFL in average time in terms of minutes and seconds for drives. And also,
I bet.
And also number of plays. They're first in the league in both of those categories.
They kept their superpower from last year.
Exactly. But then they added in some fun things, you're sort of mirroring the hyper efficient but super boring Chiefs offense of the last couple of years when they were going well in 23 and then obviously pretty much all of last year. And you're adding in explosives. And that's pretty cool and fun to have
I,
like a hyper efficient offense that also can grind you out and choke you to death, but then can, throw a 40-yard bomb to Tyquan Thornton
I
or Xavier Worthy.
I've been saying this for since the summer that the Chiefs learned how to win in every way that they needed to win,
Yes.
and now they have all the weapons available to them,
Yeah, now
and
they
so
can't do any of
they
those
can do
things.
whatever they want. They can
Yeah.
they can just toy with teams. I did think that when you said that the Chiefs hadn't gone for it in their own side, I was like, man, I could have sworn against Baltimore on their first drive of the game they went for it on their own, but it was actually they had just crossed the 50. It was 4th and 2 from the Baltimore 45 on their opening drive this year when it was just 7-0 Baltimore, and they went for that too. So like
Sure.
Andy early on in these games, 3 times now, the Lions, this game, and Baltimore, and I don't even remember in the other games, if he did it any other times, but he's gone for it 15 times this year. So he certainly has had it in his bag. So, that was H. That was handling business.
Mm-hmm.
And now we get to I. And this time I is instill fear
Oh.
because man, the Chiefs are terrifying when they're like this. I mean, this is the version of the Chiefs that everybody thought was dead. They're like Undertaker memeing this whole league, where everyone was just convinced that this team of the past that had ripped them apart for years was finally dead. And then they come out, and this is about the rest of the league. This is about what they did to the Raiders. Wasn't even about the Raiders. This was the Chiefs flexing. This was the Chiefs saying, guys, don't don't count us out yet. We are still
Mm-hmm.
here. We have so far in this system paired up a couple of short Raider drives with a couple of long Chiefs touchdown drives for those first 2 letters.
Yeah.
So for let's just keep it up. Let's just keep doing that because that's fun. This is the shortest Raiders drive yet. It was a quick 3-play, first 3 and out, 6-yard, 2-minute and 45-second drive that completed what was an absolutely just pathetic showing for Las Vegas in the whole first half of this game. They ran in those 3 drives a total of 13 plays for 33 yards in 9 minutes of a 30-minute half. It was 21-9 in the opening 60 or 30 minutes of the game on possession. They had 1 first down on their second play from scrimmage, as we talked about, and then the Chiefs hold, and that's it. And how do the Chiefs respond after that 3 and out with 6 minutes left on the clock? By instilling fear also in their opponents that they shouldn't even really try to compete in this one. They should just go ahead and wave the white flag. This is their longest drive of the half, which is saying something because the last 2 were very long and beefy. This is a 16 play, 94-yard, soul-sucking 6 minutes and 22 seconds off the clock that began at their own 6-yard line after the punt. But immediately after they started that drive, they saw plays of 11, 10, and 17 yards to get them right back out to the 44. And then they just shifted gears. They just said, oh, we're going a little bit too fast. Let's slow it down. Let's ease it up. And we're just going to go 3 yards, 3 yards, 6 yards, 12 yards, a little token 4-yard sack just to see if the Raiders are still paying attention. 19 yards on a screen to Juju on 3rd and 14. And then 12 yards, they go backwards for 2 yards. And then a Raiders penalty sets them up for a back shoulder to Rashee Rice for his second touchdown and a 21 lead, 21 point, 21-0 lead right before half. It was an absolute clinic. It was as good as you can be at football. The Chiefs became only the only team since 2001, which is far back as StatHead's Drive Finder goes. So it might be more than 2001, but I at least could only confirm it from 2001 to present to begin a game with 3 straight touchdown drives of 80 or more yards. I mean, they pitched a perfect half of football. That's what that was. They forced 3 punts. They scored 3 times. 3 touchdowns. This was just an absolute ass kicking. First down total in the first half was 21-2. I'm
Sure.
kind of surprised the Raiders even came out for the second half kickoff, aren't you?
Yeah, a little bit. And inspire fear. I mean, we've been talking about it, but the screen game. You mentioned a screen in this, and it's been years, it feels like, since we've talked about the screen game instilling fear in anyone.
It almost felt like that was like a meme that people thought Andy was good at screens, but he didn't actually do it anymore.
But the last truly great Chiefs screen game was probably 2019.
Sure.
When they still had Kareem Hunt.
Yes.
And, you saw
Good running back
flashes of
makes a
it.
good screen game.
It does, and you saw some flashes of it, every now and again. But really, the last 3 years, we haven't seen it ever. And when we do see it, it doesn't work, or it gets
No.
blown, where it goes for short yardage. I mean, the last time the Chiefs had we're skipping ahead a little bit, but Rashard Smith obviously converted a long third down on a screen later in this game. I mean, I have not looked this up, but I suspect that if we were to look it up, the last time the Chiefs converted 2 third and longs on a screen, it's been literally
probably Jamal.
Probably.
Probably.
And like this just goes to the point that we've been making about the Chiefs being able to win all these different ways. Like they had to play a certain way. They've been forced into a lot of boxes over, the course of the Patrick Mahomes era. Like 2018, they were allowed to do whatever they wanted, and teams weren't playing them.
Yeah, nobody cared about
any particular way. They were kind of just allowed to do whatever and ball out. And then, into 2020, 2021, everybody started doing the too high shell. They started doing it to everybody else, and they had to become this dink and dunk, hyper efficient offense. And they clearly wanted to get away from that. That's why they drafted Xavier Worthy. That's why they added Rashee Rice. They brought in Hollywood Brown. They brought in all these parts so that they could get back to a more explosive offense. And then Rashee Rice gets hurt and Hollywood Brown gets hurt, and they have to go back into like the extreme version, the extreme singles version to keep the line moving Chiefs, where you're just hitting single after single after single and hoping you can win the games that way. And as we've discussed many times in the show, it was efficient, but it was boring and it wasn't fun to watch and it wasn't cool. And it ultimately did not result in a successful conclusion to the season, because we judge success only by winning the Super Bowl, as any good team should. But now, like all 3 of those guys are back healthy. The offensive line has been playing really well. And if Josh Simmons ever comes back, look out. But boy, you have all your full complement of weapons in there. You have Mahomes, clearly making it a point of emphasis to work on his deep ball. Even in this game where they were mostly the super efficient grinded out offense, they had some big plays in there and he took some shots late in the play, improvising, which we've seen him do, as far back as 2018, when the Chiefs offense was the most fun offense that anyone has ever watched. So you're adding all this fun back in. It's still incredibly hyper efficient and really good. It completely crushes the opposing team because the Chiefs have the ball for forever and they can go 90 yards in 16 plays. Like it's getting to the point where I'm not quite there yet, but like, I think there's the potential that this is the most fun Chiefs offense ever. And I think they didn't have to do much in this game, right? Like it just was
not at all.
It was easy.
They only had to score 7 points in this game.
Exactly. They didn't have to take any deep shots in this game. The Raiders did play like 90% zone, and they played Matt Lane with KCSN was like, just go out of the too high shell for like one play. I want to see something.
Yes, I like that tweet.
I mean, let's see it. Like I dare you guys, right? Like it's
someone will do it.
Somebody will do it.
They'll fuck around and they'll find out. Instill fear is definitely something that it's a long-term game here too. This is about
100%.
This is about the rest of the league. This is about asserting dominance and going back to the Chiefs team that everyone thought was dead. So we get to E. A lot of good potential here for E, but I'm going with everybody eats.
That's perfect.
I can probably dispense with this whole like play-by-play recap at this point in the Chiefs system. I mean, the Chiefs did begin the second half. This is after the kickoff again with an 11-play, 65-yard, 6-minute touchdown drive. Just ho-hum, 28-point lead. Pacheco gets a rushing touchdown, so he's eaten. It's not only the pass catchers here. We get the running back some love, and the only reason that drive wasn't longer is because the Raiders kicked the ball into the end zone on the fly, which I thought was made punishable by death this season. I thought that was
I've never
completely outlawed.
But
the Raiders did that, so the Chiefs start on the 35. This section is only called Everybody Eats because I had to keep up with that Always Sunny 2-word section title thing. But obviously, prime example of Rasheed's battle cry this year. Everybody got to eat. I mean, this was a 9 guys caught a pass, 5 guys recorded a rush. Just a absolute spread the ball again. So this is another one of I hate to maybe overuse this analogy sometimes, but like it's another Patrick Mahomes Infinity Stone where
Yeah.
spreading the ball around is something he had to learn how to do when Tyreek left. And
Sure.
when it wasn't
Yep.
just the Tyreek and Travis show, and when he
Yep.
had to learn how to get guys like MVS and Kadarius Toney and those guys the ball, regularly some of Pat's biggest games as far as number of receivers, just number, was in those years. Was when you lose the superstar and you have to kind of spread the
Right.
ball around.
Sure.
And now that he has superstars like Rashee Rice, and now that he can focus on them if he ever wants to, and if they're ever going off, he can also just have fun and just spread the ball around and find who's open and he's added all these tools to his tool belt over the years. He's in his 8th year, and the team hasn't always had the ability to do everything, and he's had to adapt, and he's had to just give what the defense gives you and what the roster gives you and find a way to win. And now it's kind of like, okay, now I've got an offensive line that can protect me. I haven't always had that. Now I have receivers that can catch. I haven't always had that. Now I have an alpha. I haven't always had that. I have all these pieces in place, and I've remembered over the years how to handle all those different deficiencies. And now that I don't have any of those deficiencies, it's just like, just look out. I mean, everybody's going to eat in this offense. And we know that. We know that it's not going to be a one-man show because they've gotten away with it. They lose their one man. If it's been a one-man show last year, if it was going to be with Rashee Rice, then they lose him and they had to figure out how to do it without him. So, this is another testament to the way this roster is built and the way that this offense specifically, we'll get into the defense a little bit more, I promise. But there's so much to be happy about and to be relieved about with this offense. Just the way they've performed and the expectations that were on this offense. Because everybody, we talk about how we're relieved when they finally do something like this. But everyone else, I mean, just media wise and coverage of the Chiefs, it's been just a lot of hating that the Chiefs have been down and boring and they're ugly and they're not fun to watch and all that stuff. And now, we're starting to see a version of this offense that hums, that scores 30. You remember how hard it was to score 30 for a while?
Uh-huh. Yeah,
a long time. Well, first of all, do you remember how easy it was to score 30?
Yes, I do remember that. First of all,
that feeling, we talked about that a lot. We mentioned that on the Randy show, the 26 minimum in 2018, and how we took for granted. I know I for sure did. Just how often this team put up a lot of points, and then they stopped doing it, and I was like, it was hard, it was devastating, and now they're back to doing it, and it's fun. Everybody's eating.
You mentioned it feels like, I mean, there's so many things that the Chiefs are doing this year that they haven't done in years, and yes. One of the cool things that they're doing is blowing teams out by multiple scores, which they've never done. One of the cool things that they're doing is scoring 30 points every game. Another cool thing that they did this week that they also did last week was double up and do the old double dip at the end of the half, which though they had not done that. I have not looked up these numbers, but anecdotally, it felt like it literally that they had not done it in 2 years. It's always on my radar because, of course, the Chiefs always defer, and they always defer so that they can double dip, and then they never pull it off. And then 2 weeks in a row, they pull it off with the double touchdown double dip, which is the best possible double dip that you could do. And I mean, it's devastating.
It's
to other teams. It is, and it's just a way of the Chiefs offense kind of dragging their nuts on people a little bit. Mm-hmm. And 2 weeks in a row, and it feels great, man.
Yeah, I mean, if we're ever talking live during a game, we'll pretty much bring up the double dip every time. The potential, okay, get the ball back with 3 minutes to go here. We'll kind of, if we're feeling good about the game, we'll say next time the opponent touches the ball, they'll be down 14 more than they are right now. And if we're not feeling good about the game, we'll be like, well, here's an opportunity to double dip. Let's see the 2 3 and outs here, and then to start the third quarter, because it's been when the offense has struggled in the last couple years, that's been a very obvious sign that they don't really quite have everything figured out because they'll have the opportunity to double dip in front of them. And not only will they not get 2 touchdowns or not even 1 touchdown, they'll punt. They like won't even get a first down on either drive. Like it'll be, but now the Jacksonville game, I said, this will be a good sign to know if we're back because the Chiefs will be able to double up here. And then they didn't. They got the third quarter one, but not the second quarter one. And I was like, okay, I'll take half of it. Like that was still fine.
Yeah.
And then the Lions game, I was like, oh my God, everything's working. You know it because they double dipped with touchdowns. And then, of course, this one, everything was working that they were doing here. They just scored for the 4th. They had 4 possessions and 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And 4 long possessions, as long as they could be with the touchback and then 3 punts inside the 20-yard line. I mean, just a crazy amount of efficiency and effectiveness by the offense. So we get to F. I think a lot of people, could come up with some good F words here. I'm going to go a little bit non-traditional. I'm going to go with fresh meat. So
okay.
I called the last week. I wanted to see former Raider Gardner Minshew in this one. That was something that I wanted to see. And technically I did see Gardner Minshew in this one. But even though 2 quarterbacks got in the game for the Chiefs, only one of them was actually allowed to throw a pass because Gardner Minshew had 16 offensive snaps and the Chiefs ran the ball all 16 times. 3 of those were kneel downs and then 13 runs. That also meant that there was a heavy dose of the aforementioned Brashard Smith. He had a season high 28 snaps. He turned that into 81 yards from scrimmage. And the big, the big sign there for moving forward, because he's not going to be a feature down back moving forward, but he is going to catch passes. And he caught 5 passes for 42 yards. You mentioned the long screen that he turned into a first down. That was like the type of explosive, like when the Chiefs drafted him and we were like thinking about like the best version of Brashard Smith, a converted wide receiver, it's like, okay, he's got some juice. He's got some speed. Yeah, we can do some kind of DAT stuff with him or some kind of, just that gadgety type of, guy that he's not going to get a ton of looks, but when he does, you expect him to be able to do something with him. And the 42 yards there were really nice. That was, of course, when the Chiefs were still playing football and they were not just gently patting the Raiders on the head. Yeah. This section is also called fresh meat because all 48 players on the active roster got snaps in this one. And when your punter has the fewest offensive or the fewest number of snaps in the game on the whole roster out of all 48 guys, you had a good day. He had 8 snaps and everyone else had at least that. So I know I mentioned last letter, we haven't really talked about the defense a lot, but that's because they only played 30 snaps on defense. Jamari Conner was the team leader with 26 snaps. That's impossible. I mean, the level of, you mentioned that it's been forever since, a team had 30 total offensive plays. That just means that the defense, I mean, Chris Jones joked after the game that, he only got 22, so he felt really fresh. I know Tranquil and some other guys on defense were actually stretching on the sidelines, which you really never see, to stay loose. It was like when a baseball team, when the offense is just batting around and they put up 13 or 15 runs or whatever, and they're just, and the commentators will always be like, man, that starter, he's been on the sidelines for a long time. Like just, waiting for the Chiefs offense just refused to leave the field. I mean, they had the ball for 42 of the 60 minutes in this one. It was a clinic, total ass kicking, start to finish. Fresh meat got involved, and they were able to use everybody on the roster.
We talked through all of those teams in the AFC, and one of the games that we sort of mentioned was the Colts beat the Raiders 40-6.
Yeah,
and that's cool. But like, if the Chiefs had actually played their starters. I mean, I was texting with my dad during this game.
So a whole nother quarter of this game.
Right, exactly. Mm-hmm. I was texting my dad during the game, and he was like, I don't think Mahomes is going to play in the fourth quarter. And I was like, brother, he's going to be out of the game in the third quarter.
He was.
And in fact, he was, with 6 seconds left in the third quarter. We saw our first Gardner Minshew appearance. And I just want to say that the Chiefs, despite their dominance, I mean, 4 double-digit wins this year, they still have remained very. I think the kids are calling it ethical stat padding, which
Huh?
is to say that the Chiefs didn't take all of the opportunities that they had in this game to pad their stats. You mentioned Gardner Minshew didn't even throw a pass. That actually kind of annoys me a little bit because, like,
Yeah.
I mean, I
Probably
know
annoyed
Gardner
Gardner
Minshew.
Minshew.
I'm sure it did, and I obviously Gardner Minshew is a professional and he's a backup and he's been a backup before. He doesn't need the reps, but like, why not? Why not get him some reps?
Former
Why
team.
not let him? Yeah, why not let him throw the ball a little bit?
Yeah.
It's funny because Nate Tice, who has a family pedigree with the NFL, has worked with some NFL teams, and now does great work with Yahoo.
Is he related to Mike Tice?
Yes, that's his
I
dad.
never put that together.
Yep.
Oh, that makes a
So
ton of sense. He knows
it does
ball, and I
through and
mean,
through. It's
okay,
part of the family.
okay. Wow,
So
good to know.
he was talking about, with the backups coming to this game in the third quarter and then knelt down the ball, which I don't want to get ahead of ourselves because I'm sure that's the last letter. But before the 2-minute warning, and like the backups, like he was saying, like if you're coming into the game, like his philosophy being around the NFL, it's like if you're coming into the game as a backup, like
That's kneeling.
yeah, you have to earn the kneel. Like you have to actually play. And the
Yeah.
Chiefs backups in this game just Gardner Minshew handed the ball off 16 times and then, or I guess 13
13
times and
times.
then kneel
Yeah.
it down. Right, exactly. Like it
Yep.
just is that's my only complaint. Let the backups play and
I know.
if the backups can run up the score a little bit. And obviously the defense, the defensive backups were in there and the Raiders pulled their starters as well. But like the defense has to play it out, and
Mhm.
they managed to complete the shutout, even though they're not
The
starters.
first play of the Raiders backups was Kenny Pickett,
Yeah,
and it was a fumble.
exactly.
It was a
And it was
turnover.
a fumble, exactly. And like, just let the that's my only complaint. Like, let the backups play offense. Why not? Like, what do you got to lose, right?
I agree with you for sure. We're never going to win a battle with Andy about being conservative.
No,
That's,
no.
he is. That's what he does. We're going to get to S now, and much to the joy of everyone listening, Separate Entirely is
Yeah.
back on the menu. We are keeping the S because obviously the Chiefs separated entirely, basically right when they woke up in the morning, right when they got to Arrowhead, right when the Raiders stepped off the bus, whatever point you want to make. The Chiefs separated from this franchise, the Raiders franchise, long ago. But I wanted a special section to talk about what you just brought up. The Chiefs kneeling the ball with 2:35 to go
Yes.
in the game, with the Raiders having all three timeouts and the 2-minute warning, and they kneeled it three times and then punted. So I have never, ever, ever seen anything like that in all my years watching football, of a team that gets into victory formation when there's not enough time to kneel it four times. So they kneel three times and punt the football. I mean, it was just such a a dad dicking, whatever you want to call it. Like they mushroom stamped the Raiders. This was as low as you could possibly feel as a Raiders fan, to watch the Chiefs put their backup quarterback in, hand the ball off 13 straight times. You still can't score on their backup defense, and then their offense, with 2:35 to go, kneels three times and punts you the football. That is as emasculating and just horrifying. I mean, from their perspective, and obviously from the Chiefs' perspective, that's as good as just a mercy rule. That's a mercy rule. That was Andy saying to Pete Carroll, "You are my elder. We are the two oldest coaches in the NFL,
Yes.
and I am just going. I'm not gonna give you a heart attack. Like I'm gonna kneel on the football way before normal teams kneel on the ball." I couldn't believe it. The Chiefs est hard in this one. They separated entirely, more than we've ever really seen them. First shutout in the regular season in the Mahomes era, first shutout even, or in the playoff. I mean, first shutout of Mahomes' career. And it just, it was such a good time for it with Rashid's first game back. It was the vibes were high going into it. We expected this to be an ass kicking, and for the Chiefs to finally kick a team's ass when we expect it, to finally show up to the stadium and do what they were supposed to do. It couldn't have given me more confidence or hope for the remainder of the season than what they did. They look like they are ready to just go destroy people.
Oh yeah, they do. I love it. The new chief system, may it reign for many weeks and years to come. Let's do our awards, and these will also be a little bit non-traditional this
Yeah.
week. Typically, we do three kinds of awards. We have, of course, our best players. They are our five-star men who are screaming out through their play. I'm a five-star man. We have our trash men.
I'm the trash man. I come out, I throw trash all over the ring, and then I start eating garbage.
Who are eating garbage all over the field. And then we have our wild cards.
Wild card, bitches! Yeah!
Who are capable of anything. But this week, we don't have any wild cards. We don't have any trash men because everybody's a five-star man. And we're just going to pick three each. So I'll kick it off with the five-star man of five-star men. I've been letting you have him lately.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
So I'm taking him back.
I appreciate that.
I'm taking Patrick Mahomes, the greatest quarterback in the world, the MVP favorite, the league leader in total touchdowns, the league leader in pretty much every stat except PFF grade right now.
Man,
35.
let's talk about that.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that.
Maybe
another time. But
it's dumb.
I mean, it is dumb. It is.
Everyone
dumb.
saw it. Pat was the 16th PFF quarterback. Gino was the 12th.
Yeah.
After the game we just described.
Yes. After the game we just described.
Yeah.
286, 3 touchdowns, 4 rushes for 28 yards on the ground. I mean,
3 quarters,
sure.
4 drives. Sure. He did that in 4 drives. Or 5
exactly.
drives. I guess they got
there were a couple of quote unquote turnover worthy plays in there. And I get that. That's fine. They were all on the same drive. So like if you're grading,
none of them were turnovers.
Exactly. Just from like a grading perspective, like, okay, if one of those was a turnover, then
the other ones wouldn't have happened.
Exactly.
Oh, that's good.
The other
I hadn't
ones
thought
wouldn't
about
have
that
happened.
angle. I like that.
So there's also
how can you grade a guy for 5 turnover worthy plays or whatever on one drive?
Exactly. Like, how can you? Because they wouldn't, if any of them had been a turnover, the other ones wouldn't have happened.
It's good.
I don't know, like the whole hypothetical grade of like if you had one actual turnover, that would be better graded than having 4 turnover worthy plays that aren't actual turnovers on the same drive, because you wouldn't have the opportunity to make any additional turnover worthy plays.
Great point.
If you actually turn over the ball.
You should email Chris Collinsworth.
I should. He was really struggling with trying to justify that. And obviously Chris is just the guy in charge. Chris doesn't have anything to do with the actual grading. And
He's
I like Chris, but it just is right. I like Chris, but it was tough. 5-star man for Patrick Mahomes. I will give you the floor for your next 2 picks.
EGE, baby. Rashee Rice, 7 catches, 42 yards, 2 tuds, 2 rushes for 12 yards, which I guess they're giving him a little extra work there. That's normally not part of his game, but he obviously means a ton both in the locker room and on the field to this team. His presence was sorely missed. The offense just honestly it's a similar step forward that they took in the Ravens game when they added Worthy back, and then they take another step forward when they add Rashee back, and now all systems go, man. We talked about it. Like, this is the version of the Chiefs that if they're going to lose games with this roster, there's nothing you can do about that. They have put their best foot forward. This is the best version that they can be, and if another team is good enough to beat this version of the Chiefs, my hats are off to them, because these guys are dogs, and Rashee obviously represents just the whole wide receiver, the turnaround, the 180 degree turnaround. I always hate when people say it's a 360 degree turnaround. You're back to right where you started, baby. But the days of MVS and Tony and Sky Moore and all that are gone, and now it's Worthy and Rice and Juju and Hollywood and Thornton. I mean, good luck, NFL. Rashee Rice, he's my first 5-star man.
Give me number 2.
Steve Spagnuolo. People don't know how to pronounce his name.
Are you doing a Romo thing? Is that a Romo thing?
Well, he always says Spagnola.
Yeah, he does.
Spagnolo. It doesn't matter. Steve Spags is just a monster, and he obviously had a really good idea when the Raiders came into this game without two of their primary weapons on the passing game. He knew what to
Yeah,
do with it. He knew what
right.
to do about it. He knew that Ashton Jeanty wasn't going to beat him and the ground game wasn't going to beat him. And if Geno Smith wanted to try and throw his way into this game, God bless you, Geno. Let's try it. But he never even got an opportunity. Spags, this is as good as the defense has ever looked in
Mm-hmm.
the entire Spags tenure with the Chiefs. I mean, this game, obviously, you throw your first shutout. And not only was it a shutout, it was almost, I mean, there were 3 first downs
Yeah,
in the whole
right.
game. They ran
Literally
30
very
plays.
close to a perfect game.
It was as close to a perfect game as a defense has played in the NFL. Now, I did look this up because I wanted to see, there were a lot of numbers being thrown around. And there was a game back in fact, the very first Cleveland Browns revival game.
Yeah.
And the Steelers went into Cleveland and they beat them 42-0, and they held them to 2 first downs and like 40 yards total. And it was basically this Chiefs game on steroids. The Steelers had 33 first downs to 2 instead of 30-3. They just kind of did this a little bit more. But these 2 games, this game and that game, were the only 2 games in NFL history that had the points, yards, and first down discrepancies that these games had. It was basically the second best defensive performance in NFL history by any team this game. It was unbelievable. And of course, anytime that happens, you got to shout out the defensive coordinator. Spags is my guy.
It's crazy because, I mean, yes, the Raiders were shorthanded, and yes, the Raiders have gotten their asses beaten a few times this year.
Sure.
But
they're an NFL team, aren't they?
They're an NFL team. Pete Carroll's a good coach. He sounded old and sad, and I felt really bad for him in his little interview after the half. And I like Pete Carroll.
Me
I
too.
have great respect for what he's done in the league. But yeah, this is going to be probably a short gig for him before he goes back into a well-earned retirement. And Spags put on a show. And, just to look at the long-term outlook for this team, the defense still has some personnel problems. The defensive line,
agreed.
It still struggles to get pressure with 4. They only got 1 sack in this game, 1 called back because of the McDuffie hold. They're still struggling a little bit in that regard, but the secondary is incredibly good and deep. I mean, Christian Fulton has been a healthy scratch. He was their big offseason addition. And let's not forget, this defense almost always plays better at the end of the year than it does at the beginning of the year. And they've already shut down Lamar Jackson and Jared Goff and 2 of the best offenses in the NFL. Yep. And then they took a bad offense in the NFL and historically dominated them. And, sure, they were shaky against the Jags. They've had some moments where they have not played that well, but by and large, this has been a really good defense. And it's ahead of schedule.
Yes,
there still are a lot of young players in this defense. The defense is ahead of schedule. We fully expect them to add a piece or 2, maybe at the trade deadline, or if there are cuts later in the year, a veteran that asks for his release, whatever. We're still expecting them to make some moves there. Incredible defense, great performance by Spags. I'll take as my next 5-star man, obviously the sack king, the CEO of Sack Nation, Chris Jones, the only official sack in this game that stuck on the board. We've been critical of Chris Jones this year, and it's no secret that he has not played on the same level that he has the last couple of seasons, and that's he's getting older. There have always been, his effort has always been a little bit of selective, because if you're going to be the explosive beast closer, you've got to save your fastball for the decisive play of the game. And that being said, I think it's just crazy how much the vibes have shifted in the last couple of weeks. Chris deleted his social media 2 weeks ago after there was the play of him loafing, when Trevor Lawrence puts the ball on the ground a couple of times and then ends up getting the end zone for the go-ahead score. Everybody is eating on offense and defense now. The vibes have done a complete 180-degree shift. And I think that matters to a player like Chris Jones. He is such an emotional guy. And I do think that I think Travis Kelce is the same way. We've talked about both of those guys, besides Pat being the leaders of their respective units. And I think like they're both vibes guys. And I do think that they play better when the vibes are good than they do when the vibes are bad. And the vibes were bad and they were both
Yeah,
playing badly. And now
agreed.
the vibes are incredible and they're both playing great. So like I don't want to reduce it down to that level, but like especially when you're an older player that has had the success that both of those guys have had,
Yes. Yes, exactly.
it's important to know that your effort is going to be rewarded.
Mhm.
Like these guys are they're the longest tenure players, and they are two all-time greats on their respective sides of the ball, not just in Chiefs history, but in NFL history. You have to know that your effort is going to produce results. And I think, it's great to get that positive feedback and enjoy, dominant wins like they've been stacking the last couple of weeks. And that's all great. I'll hit you with one final 5-star man. It's Andy Reid. I have already complained about him taking his foot off the gas, but if there was ever a game where it was acceptable to take your foot off the gas, this one was.
It's actually pretty funny.
It is actually pretty funny.
They trolled them by taking their foot off the gas.
Exactly. It's funny that they completed the shutout despite taking their feet off the gas.
Almost impossible, really.
It's almost impossible. And, like, it actually is funny because, again, like, we're talking about ethical stat padding or stat compiling. Like, there's no garbage time to these stats that the Chiefs are putting up. And there's still, like, now on a per drive basis, I believe they're number one in EPA per drive.
Correct.
And that's including all of these empty drives at the end of this game where like they're just handing the ball off and then punting, and they're still first in the NFL and all those stats.
Their fourth quarter drives, just 3 plays, 3 yards punt, 6 plays, 18 yards punt, 4 plays, 7 yards downs, which, they did 4th and 4 at the 5. Sure. They just ran it up the middle for a yard instead of, scoring a touchdown or kicking a field goal or doing whatever. And then their final was the 3 kneel downs. So that is if they have 4 drives right there where they got as bad as you could get on results and they're still number one, and it's only 7 games, 4 drives is a pretty decent sample in 7 games.
It is.
And the fact that they're number one there with those drives, just hilarious, man.
It is hilarious. And it's sort of like peak Andy Reid because he's still maintaining his identity. He's always been the take your foot off the gas guy, but the Chiefs are still winning dominant victories. It's extremely funny and it's very fun. And we already mentioned it, but like the fact that he pulls out his weirdest and most offensive, frankly, plays against the division rivals, the Raiders, the Broncos. We haven't done it as much against the Chargers for whatever reason, but the Raiders and the Broncos.
Well, the Chargers are usually more of a game.
I know, and
we don't need to do it.
And they're also not historically as great an enemy.
The level
of hatred, of hatred doesn't run quite as deep. So anyway, Andy Reid, my 5-star man.
I love it. I wonder if he knew, number one, that Pat was going to scream this fucking never fucking works, and number two, if he knew that would be picked up so clearly by the audio on the broadcast, because that does not strike me as something that Andy would have put in the playbook. All right, Pat, go out there and scream fuck a bunch. Like that's not really Andy's style, obviously, but it is Pat's style, and that was great. My 5-star man is also a Chiefs head coach legend, and of course, if you weren't looking on the screen and knew who I typed out here, and I had told you to guess, I'm sure your first guess would have been this. It's Marty Schottenheimer, guys. It's the man, the myth, the legend, the biggest Raider hater anyone's ever been or met in their whole lives. I mean, he just wanted to beat the shit out of the Raiders every single time, every day, every week. If you had told Marty one year that they were going to play 16 games against the Raiders, he might have had a heart attack of happiness and died. He was just the biggest, the reason that so many Chiefs fans, feel that feeling against about the Raiders is because of Marty Schottenheimer. And he would have been as tickled about this result as anybody on earth. So I was thinking about him all game, and shout out to the legend.
Yeah, and I love it because I almost feel like, and I'm sure Andy would never admit to this, but I do feel like the only thing that explains to me why Andy pulls out so many dick plays against the
Is
Raiders
Marty?
is Marty. Like I think
That's
like
good. I
his
never.
spirit it's in the DNA of Arrowhead Stadium, right?
Yes.
Like this point.
Yes.
Like Marty hated the Raiders so much that like there is his
Hmm.
spirit hates the
Hmm.
Raiders so much still
Yep.
that Andy's like, oh man,
I guess.
remember
I
that
guess.
fourth
Fuck the
down play?
Raiders.
Yeah, like where we like pretend to try and get him to jump off sides and then we just run the ball. Yeah, I guess maybe this is the week to put that into the game plan or snow
Yeah.
globe or
Ring
whatever.
around the
Like
rosy. Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
only thing that makes sense to me. So
I agree. I like it.
I hope Marty, wherever you are, that you enjoyed the game on Sunday. Let's very briefly discuss the game that the Chiefs will play on Monday. And I will be out of the country. So you're gonna, I'm sure, find somebody to fill in aptly.
Oh yeah. I forgot
As
about
you always do. Uh, just a little reminder for you here.
that. Thanks.
I'm going to be in London, and I doubt that I will be watching this game live. In part because the stakes have gotten considerably lower. Jaden Daniels injured his hamstring against the Cowboys on Sunday. He has already been ruled out, which means we are going to be facing a backup quarterback in Arrowhead Stadium, and of course, the backup is none other than Marcus Mariota, who the last time he started a game against the Chiefs was in the 2017 playoffs. He caught his own touchdown pass. The refs decided to give him forward progress instead of strip fumble by Derek Johnson. An infamous game that we attended in person, and frankly rubs me the wrong way to this day. So Marcus Mariota, the Chiefs have encountered him a few times as Raiders backup. Since then, he's come in relief of Raiders starting quarterbacks. So this will be the first time the Chiefs see him as a starter since that fateful day in January of 2018. So, here we are.
Here we are, buddy. This game probably shouldn't be very close either. I mean,
it shouldn't be.
The Commanders are 3-4 and on a downward trajectory themselves, and they've been very injured. They've had injuries to both Jaden and McLaurin and Debo, and obviously they lost Eckler to the year. And I mean, they're having a bad year, and they're coming into Arrowhead on a Monday night, and the Chiefs are feeling themselves after just pitching a shutout. I mean, I guess I guess that's maybe classic trap game material. The Chiefs have the Bills after that, and you would think that if the Chiefs were capable of being trapped, that this would be the setup for it. Would be an NFC opponent that doesn't have their starting quarterback, that's not playing very well, coming in on a primetime game the week before you play your biggest conference rivals. So we'll see how it goes. I guess I should say for the listeners, there is a chance that I'm not able to book a co-host next week since I've neglected to do any work there. So there's a small chance that I'll be tweeting about, hey, we're off this week, but I plan on reaching out to some of our usual suspects about the job. So we'll see how we do next week.
It's funny, just to put a bow on this has been a long show, and
yeah,
I'm sure our listeners appreciate it. We have a lot of fun doing it. These are the best times to be podcasting about the Chiefs in a year where we've had some hard times, personally and professionally, podcasting about the Chiefs. So the Commanders are somehow 7th in DVOA, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me because if you look at their record, it's not very good. And if you look at the teams that they've beaten, like sometimes you'll see a team way high up in DVOA and you'll be like, oh yeah, that's because they beat two teams 50-6 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't really have any games like that either. They beat the Giants in week 1, 21-6, pretty dominant win there. They got the Raiders in week 3, 41-24, but like DVOA can't rate that highly because everybody does that to the Raiders.
Yeah, right. And if they're rated highly by that, Chiefs are going to be ranked 0 in DVOA.
They're exactly. Right. Yeah. And then they got the Chargers in week 5, 27-10. So pretty good win there. Sure. Pretty good win there. But of course, the Chargers had offensive line injuries in that game. I think that was the game where Joe Alt actually got hurt during the game. Right. Yep. And then since then, they've had a couple of close losses. They lost by 1 point to the Bears. They got blown out by the Cowboys. by 22 just this last week. So like, it's kind of hard to understand why DVOA likes them so much. If you look at the EPA comparisons from our friend Joseph Hefe, the offense has been pretty good. 10th in EPA, 12th in passing EPA, 9th in rushing EPA. Success rate, they're top 10. Passing and rushing success rate, they're top 10. But they're down towards the bottom of that. They're top 10, but right around 10. And the Chiefs, of course, now at this point, 3rd in EPA, 5th in passing EPA, 7th in rushing EPA, 2nd in success rate, 1st in passing success rate, 13th in rushing success rate, 2nd in late down success rate.
Crank those numbers, baby.
4th in pass rate, number 1 in pass rate over expected. So they're just throwing the ball all over the yard. Explosive play rate, they're down at 22. But
Probably
series conversion rate,
out
they're second.
drives.
Yeah, sure, exactly. I mean, like, they're not even trying. Like, I mean, it was literally almost half their drives in this game.
Yes.
They
had 5 out of 9 were
exactly
on the first team, and the other 4 were give up drives.
That's crazy. But the defense for the Commanders has not been very good. 24th in EPA, so a big mismatch there. And then the Chiefs' defense is quietly up to 10th in EPA. They're top 10.
Pretty good.
They're 7th against the pass. They're 24th against the run. But as we always say, the Chiefs choose to let you run or not to run. And so, if that's going to be a part of their game plan with the backup quarterback in there, I'm sure the Chiefs will have a game plan for how to address Bill Krosky-Merritt and those other jokers that are running behind the Commanders' offensive line. But yeah.
Here's another aspect of this game that I think is important. The Washington Commanders at 3-4, if they were in the AFC, would be the 9th seed where the Bengals are. Right?
Sure.
They'd be kind of right there on the edge of the playoffs. And they'd be thinking, hey, guys, we got to rip off a couple and get back into this thing. The Commanders in the NFC are the 13 seed. There are only 3 NFC teams with a worse record than them. And that's because the NFC this year is beaten up on all these shitty AFC teams, and they're loaded. They have, the 6, 5, and 2 teams in the NFC that are seeds 2 through 7, because the number 1 seed is not 6 and 1. They are 4, 1 and 1. The Green Bay Packers. Just a weird setup in the NFC playoffs. But point is, the Commanders, if they know, if they're realistic about what's going on in this season, they're out. They're out. You're not getting back into this thing. You've already lost too many games. You're looking up at too many teams. Just give up, guys. You're going into Arrowhead. You don't have your quarterback. Just lay down, please.
Yeah, and I think, like, obviously NFL teams don't think that way, but like that just is, well, some of them do. That just is the reality of the situation, and there's no shame in that. I mean, this team played in the NFC Championship game last year.
Yeah, sure. They've been very hurt.
But Jaden Daniels is a rookie, and you got a little bit of a sophomore slump for him. He hasn't played as well. Yeah. He has been banged up. A lot of the guys on the team have been banged up. They're playing in actually one of the worst divisions in the NFC, and still are languishing in 3rd place. The NFC East is actually the only division in the NFC that doesn't have multiple teams above 500. The Eagles are the only team in that division at 5-2 that are above 500. Dallas is 3-3-1. But, the North has 3 teams above 500 and 1 team in last place at 500, the Vikings. The South has the only bad team really in the NFC, the Saints, who are 1-6. And I guess the Cardinals are 2-5. Yeah. And the Giants. But yeah, I mean, they have multiple teams above 500 in the NFC West. 3, 5, and 2 teams all tied at the top of the division. And then Arizona at 2-5. So, it's going to be an interesting game. It's going to be Monday Night Football. It's against a backup quarterback. Like, let's see if we can keep the trend going, and if the new Chiefs, the new Chief system Chiefs, the 2025 Chiefs, the everybody got to eat Chiefs. Let's see if they just take care of business again and blow this team out and give us another convincing, comfortable, just, like a warm blanket type victory. We'll see you next week.